The Radiance of Pokémon wisdom. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 101, A Lone Traveler. Zyozzy, who had no idea that he was carrying the hopes of many people, was also thinking about his own Pokémon. He had already registered a last one, which was Pikachu. Pikachu had Iron Tail and could target Ninetales, while Bulbasaur's grass type was restrained by Ninetales' ice type skills, so Bulbasaur had to take over. "Bulbasaur, I'm bothering you again," Zyozzy said. Seed Bulbasaur called out calmly, showing strong credibility. At this time, he was still the lonely traveler in the world and had not yet fallen into the old uncle of the research institute in the future. "It's Bulbasaur again." Fairy Elf uses magic flash, Zahu said. "Bulbasaur, use the vine whip to hit the ground," Zyozzy said. Bulbasaur immediately hit the ground with the vine whip and then flew into the air. "Next, use sleep powder." Zyozzy followed the routine. "Fairy Elf, use fairy wind," Zahu said. Fairy Elf's ribbon-like tentacles flapped, and a gorgeous wind blew, blowing all the sleep powder away directly. "What? There is such a way to deal with it?" Zyozzy was surprised. This was not right. Never think that one trick can do everything. I told you that this trick can only bully weak players. For masters, they can only be caught off guard and attacked. And there is a big flaw in attacking like this, Zahu said calmly. "Fairy Elf, use Destruction Death Beam." The beam of light from the mouth of the fairy elf condensed and suddenly exploded, accurately hitting Bulbasaur, who was still in the air and had no place to hide. Bulbasaur screamed and fell to the ground. "Bulbasaur, get up!" Zyozzy shouted hard. As if sensing Zyozzy's firm will, Bulbasaur did not completely lose its fighting ability and show its eyes, but stood up firmly. Even though it looked tired, it still had the ability to fight. "Okay, Bulbasaur, use Sunflame," Zyozzy said excitedly. "Oh my god, I miscalculated." Zahu smiled bitterly. He had thought that he could kill Bulbasaur with Destruction Beam, so he didn't pay much attention to the sequel after using Destruction Beam. Now Bulbasaur wanted to use Sunflame, and the fairy spirit couldn't stop it at all. One accumulated for one round, and one was stiff for one round. If I had known this, I would have used another Pray for Rain. Rainy weather can't absorb sunlight at all. Unfortunately, the effect of the first Pray for Rain had been consumed by Kintaro, and now it's just ordinary weather. While Zahu was waiting, Bulbasaur's Sunflame finally accumulated completely and was about to explode, and the fairy spirit finally recovered its ability to move. "Fairy spirit, use magic flash first, don't let it fire," Zahu said. A strong colorful light immediately burst out from the fairy spirit, and it went straight to Bulbasaur. "Bulbasaur, jump up and dodge," Zyozzy shouted. Seed. Bulbasaur's voice was accompanied by a roar, and it actually jumped up on its two hind legs, then turned over in the sky and dodged. "Okay, Bulbasaur, fire," Zyozzy shouted. The seed on Bulbasaur's back burst into light, and a strong light burst out, hitting the fairy in an instant, and a puff of smoke and sand rolled up. When the smoke and sand dispersed, the fairy turned out to be a circle of eyes. "Finally one, and the next one is the fifth Pokémon," Zyomeo said excitedly. "Ninetale, is it the first Pokémon of Brother Zahu? I haven't seen it fight yet. Is it strong?" Shinji asked. The bond between Ninetale and Zahu is the deepest, and the relationship is the best, so they have a tacit understanding in battle, and their power will be much stronger. Anyway, none of your Pokémon can compare, Professor Oak said. Zahu rubbed his eyebrows. Although Fairy was the last among his main Pokémon, and he had fought 2 games before, which consumed a lot of physical strength, it was not weak enough to be killed by a move of Sunflame. Zyozzy's Bulbasaur even resisted a wave of destruction and deathlight. But looking at Zyozzy's Bulbasaur, Zahu didn't hesitate. Anyway, the word science has never been related to Zyozzy. Forget it. Ninetales, show up and complete your first show at the Quartz Conference, Zahu said. Ninetales appeared gracefully, with 9 tails stretched out elegantly, emitting little ice particles. Under the light, it was more beautiful than the fairy elf before. At that moment, the audience around, especially the female audience, cheered. Zyros' expression became more solemn. Ninetales was Zahu's first Pokémon. He knew how strong it was. Bulbasaur, do you still want to fight? Zyros, he said. Seed. Bulbasaur's eyes showed a fighting spirit. Okay, Bulbasaur, let's take advantage of this momentum to win. Zyros, he said passionately. Win? Ninetales, a flash of lightning. Zahu shook his head in disbelief. The gentle look of Ninetales immediately turned into a sharp one, and then turned into a white light, hitting Bulbasaur fiercely. Bulbasaur was hit against a stone pillar, and its eyes immediately turned into circles, completely losing its ability to fight. So fast, Zyros didn't even have time to command. Zyroxia exclaimed. Zahu's Pokémon specializes in speed, but the next game will be interesting. The first Pokémon duel between the two brothers. Professor Oak smiled. Sure enough, just as Professor Oak expected, the last Pokémon sent by Zyros was Pikachu. Pikachu, the last one is indeed this one. But Zyros, you should have taken back the Bulbasaur just now, and don't say the words you just said. Take advantage of the momentum to win like this. Don't say it again, otherwise you will lose every time you say it. Zahu said, not that he wanted to hit Zyros, but when he watched the animation before, whenever Zyros said this, he would lose the next game. I know. Zyros replied with a flat mouth, and then said, Pikachu, look at our strength, 100,000 volts. Pikachu's body burst into electricity, and the strong yellow current rushed into the sky, and went straight to the Ninetales. Get out of the way. Ice Gravel. Ninetales ran flexibly, calmly escaping from Pikachu's 100,000 volts, and then spit out a huge ice ball from its mouth. Pikachu was so scared that he hugged his head and ducked. Zahu looked at the frightened Pikachu, and couldn't help but smile knowingly. The current Pikachu is not the Pikachu who can fight alpacas and lose to novices in the future. Sometimes he really admits his weakness. Continue to use Ice Gravel, Zahu said. The ice balls in Ninetales' mouth condensed and spit out one by one. Pikachu relied on his flexible body to dodge one by one, but there were still a lot of ice chips on his body. Pikachu, don't hide anymore. Use Iron Tail and break it head on. Zyros, he shouted. Pikachu's eyes lit up, and he remembered that he had such a trick. His tail immediately shone brightly, and he slapped one of his tails hard, hitting a hockey puck back. Then he spun rapidly in the air, and hit all the remaining 2 hockey pucks at Ninetales, as if he wanted Ninetales to know what it meant to suffer the consequences of one's own actions. Not bad for your skills, but unfortunately, Zyros, you forgot one thing. Ninetales, we also use Iron Tail, Zahu said. Ninetales' 9 tails stretched out, all emitting a faint silver light, and then calmly hit the ball back. Comparing the Iron Tail attack, let alone who taught you this trick, just say, how many tails do you have, and how many tails do I have? 2 fists are no match for 4 hands, let alone 1 tail trying to fight against 9 tails. Ninetales' 9 tails bounced rapidly, and Pikachu finally hit all the balls back every time, and then it hit them back easily. After a while, Pikachu was sweating profusely, but it was just like nothing happened to the fox. A scream sounded, and 1 tail finally lost to 9 tails. An ice ball hit Pikachu's face, and Pikachu screamed, and then Ninetales mercilessly smashed the remaining 8 ice balls on Pikachu's face. Ninetales, use the freezing ray, Zahu said. Pikachu, get out of the way. Zyros, he shouted. After hearing Zyros' words, Pikachu under the ice ball stood up firmly, and jumped out at once, and even dodged the freezing ray of Ninetales. Rejuvenation Roar accelerated to dodge. Zahu looked like he didn't want to play. Really, among Zyros, Zyromeo, and Shinji, Zahu didn't want to meet Zyros the most. Zyromeo and Shinji were both traditional and upright. Zahu was very familiar with their fighting methods, and it was easy to target them. But Zyros, although he was his younger brother, Zahu still had to say that this guy was a wild one. The Pokémon in your hand are also abnormal like their owner. They become stronger when they meet strong ones and weaker when they meet weak ones. They are prone to capsize when they meet weak ones, but they are prone to counterattack and shine when they meet strong ones. The combination of 2 of them leads to continuous showy operations, plus the double buffs of Rejuvenation Roar and Quick Dodge. Chapter 100 into the final game. Pikachu, get out of the way. Zahu commanded Ninetales to use the freezing ray 3 times in a row. However, under Zyoz's roar, Pikachu was perfectly super god, winning 3 times in a row. The 4 kings on the second floor were stunned. So agile, it must have passed. Brother, your freezing ray can't hit my Pikachu. Zyos said proudly. Really? Zahu showed a smile on his face. Whenever Zyos was proud, Zyos' butt was almost gone. After all, Zyos' protagonist Halo was almost invisible here in the League Champion, and his own arrangement was also completed. Ninetales, use the freezing ray again. Zahu said. Pikachu, get out of the way again. Zyos said. Pikachu was about to get out of the way again. After getting out of the way so many times, it was very skilled. But this time, when he was about to get out of the way, he suddenly slipped and fell to the ground, and then he was frozen by the freezing ray and was judged to have lost his ability to fight. What's going on? Zyos was surprised. He looked at the venue carefully and found that the venue had a layer of light ice crystals without him noticing. The whole venue had become an ice venue. Speed is something that can be limited by changing the venue. I couldn't hit the freezing beam 3 times in a row. Aren't you surprised why I used it so frequently? It is to freeze the entire venue. You still have a long way to go to become a Pokémon Master. Zahu said. I know, brother. Next time, Pikachu and I will definitely beat you. Zyos said. It depends on when your Pikachu becomes Pikachu, and he doesn't want to act. Zahu smiled slightly. Zyos was confused. What is Pikachu? There is also acting. But before he could ask an answer, Zahu had already left, and the commentator's voice sounded instead. The exciting game is finally over. The one who advanced to the 6th round is our player Zahu, and he defeated player Zyos' 6 Pokémon with only 5 Pokémon. Of course, player Zyos' strength cannot be ignored. He is a newcomer who is traveling for the first time, but he can become one of the top 8, and he is the only trainer in the competition who has defeated player Zahu's 4 Pokémon. Let us give our applause to the 2 trainers from Pallet Town and look forward to more exciting semi-finals and finals. 3 days later. Okay, the exciting semi-finals have begun. The red player is Zahu from Pallet Town, and the green player is Zyojia from Pallet Town. Let's look forward to the match between the 2. It's so exciting. Zahu's Haunter is still so strong. He defeated 2 of the opponent's Pokémon in one breath before being knocked off the stage. Zyojia was not to be outdone. He used Tyrannosaurus to finally defeat Zahu's Leaf King, but Zyojia only has 2 Pokémon in his hand at the moment. Wow, Zahu is so amazing. He sent out Snorlax again. This is the first Pokémon he sent out this season, and Snorlax lived up to expectations. It only used one move of Frost Punch to knock down Tyrannosaurus, and then defeated Zyogia's Flamahorse with the same response to all changes. Zahu has advanced to the finals. It's the final. This match will determine the winner and the champion of this quartz conference. The players on both sides are in place. The red player is Zahu from Pallet Town, and the green player is Zyoi from Pallet Town. Let's look forward to the wonderful match between the 2. It's wonderful. Zyoi is worthy of being a master who can enter the finals. He used a Lakazam to defeat Zahu's Haunter, and became the only master in this competition who defeated Zahu's Haunter in the first round. Faced with this situation, Zahu sent out Gyarados, and it was a Gyarados of an extremely huge size. Can Zyoi compete with it? What a powerful Gyarados. It defeated a Lakazam with a vicious wave. What can Zyoi do next? Zahu's Gyarados is really powerful. It actually defeated Zyoi's 3 Pokémon at once. Does he need to choose a pet? Zahu, he changed his pet. What? It turned out to be the legendary Articuno. Zahu actually has a legendary beast. Can Zyoi still resist? It's really amazing. Zahu's Articuno easily defeated Zyoi's 3 Pokémon. So, the champion of this quartz conference is born. It's Zahu from Pallet Town. Under the attention of the crowd, Zahu took back his Articuno, felt the enthusiastic expressions of all parties, and showed a proud smile on his face. Although he was determined to win, and was very confident that he would win the championship of this quartz conference, and even used this conference competition to bet with Shiba and train the newly acquired Pokémon, but thinking and doing are different. when he really won the game. Even with Zahu's calm personality, he was extremely excited at this time, and he felt that something was about to burst out of his chest. He really won the championship. After the time travel, scenes flashed in his mind. When I was 10 years old, I watched people of my age take away their initial Pokémon in front of me one by one, and then I could only take care of other people's Pokémon at the Oak Research Institute, watching others get badges one after another, and participate in the Quartz Conference, and I could only be a spectator. And now, I'm the focus of the whole audience. Although it was 5 years late, I still got my first championship. My childhood dream finally came true. And this is just the beginning. There are Johto, Hone, Sinnoh, countless places waiting for me to see and conquer. This is just the starting point. Zahu tried hard to calm himself, but when he really stood on the stage, took the championship trophy from Kona, and accepted everyone's envious eyes, Zahu couldn't help but get excited. Looking at the excited Zahu, Kona showed a charming smile on his face. Perhaps only at this time, Zahu would show such an expression that matches his age. Hanako in the audience was even more excited and shed tears. Among all the people here, she is the only one who can best understand Zahu's feelings of winning this championship. Finally, Xiaozi, Xiaomeo, and Shinji all had the same fiery eyes. This time, everyone lost convincingly. We have cultivated you for no more than 1 year at most, and you have been raising you for 5 years. The next Johto League will be the time for collective revenge. Everyone must become stronger, and must become stronger. It's not just about winning the championship, but also about defeating this man. Surprising or not, it ended without a final. The championship final or something like that. There is no such thing. The supporting characters who didn't even show their faces in the 3 animations, and have no sense of existence, just continue to have no sense of existence, and Johto Hone should be more serious. Otherwise, it would be very tiring to write too many battles for the supporting characters. I don't want to be like a bunch of bullshit authors who met a group of top level masters in a quartz competition. It's complete nonsense. I'd also like to take a moment to say a few words and thank everyone for their support. I didn't expect that there would be 20,000 collections so far, and it would be on the cultural list, so I added an update yesterday and today to express my gratitude. And to the friends who gave me rewards, I would like to express my 12,000 gratitude, but because the names of some of you are difficult to type, and the space is limited, I will not list them one by one. Anyway, thank you. Next, Orange Islands, Training 3 Idiot Birds. Chapter 103, Late Mutuo. Zahu won the championship of the Quartz Conference. After returning home, he immediately caused a sensation. Hanako directly held a garden party and invited the neighbors of Pallet Town to celebrate for free. Professor Oak was also very excited because this was the first time in decades since that Pallet Town had its own championship. On this day, everyone who came to participate was very happy. Everyone was from the same village. When Zahu was a child, he took Xiaozi to steal sweet potatoes from their fields. However, because the villagers were too familiar with each other, Zahu did not show up at this time. In front of a girlfriend, or more accurately, a girlfriend who has not yet been pursued, these villagers and so on can be temporarily put aside. As for Kona, she slept in the research institute last night. For Kona, Zahu's research institute is no different from hers. As for Hanako, a mother who urged Zahu to find a girlfriend when he was 10 years old, let alone her, she almost gave the heirloom to Kona. Beep, beep, beep. Zahu was teasing Kona comfortably when suddenly a watch on his hand rang. Zahu saw that the caller ID was due, rolled his eyes unhappily, turned on the voice call function and said, "Tell me everything in 10 seconds. If it's not important, I will block you immediately. If you don't even care about your own brother's life or death, just ignore what I said." Do said. Xiaozi, what's wrong with him? Zahu frowned slightly. After the Quartz Conference, Xiaozi, Xiaomeo, and Shinji deeply felt the insufficiency of their strength, and then pulled Xiaogang and Xiaoxia together. The 5 of them now don't know where to go for special training, and they didn't even come to celebrate. I'm broadcasting the situation on the new island to you now. Do said. Zahu frowned and clicked on the video sent by Do. The violent sea level first came into view, with dark clouds, turbid waves, and heavy rain pouring down without mercy. The whole sea seemed to be angry. However, in this riotous ocean, there are still human figures. A Milotic, a Starfish, a Blastoise, 2 Squirrels, 5 Pokémon carried 5 people sailing in the sea. Needless to say, they were naturally Misty, Shinji, Xiaomao, Xiaozi, and Xiaogang. According to the information at hand, a mysterious trainer on the other side of the sea sent invitations to some outstanding trainers of the Quartz Conference, asking them to participate in the strongest Pokémon conference. It was at this time that the sea suddenly erupted with huge waves, but more than 10 trainers here still went. Du said, "Normal, Pokémon trainers are originally fearless adventurers. If they are afraid of danger, they will not travel, and just stay at home." Zahu said, "But the origin of that mysterious Pokémon trainer is still unknown. Many of the people who go now are our elite rookies in Kanto. If they all have accidents, the development of Kanto in the next 20 years will be faulted. Because your brother is here, we decided to let you go." Du said solemnly. "Okay, leave it to me. I'll go there right now." Zahu frowned and turned off the video. "Don't worry too much. Xiaozi has Charizard. Ordinary opponents can't hurt him. If he can't win, he can escape. He will definitely survive before we arrive." Kona comforted. "It would be fine if it was an ordinary opponent. This opponent almost made me cry." Zahu said helplessly. "Beat you to tears? You're not talking about the Mewtwo that escaped from Team Rocket, are you?" Kona said in surprise. "Although I don't know why it appeared at this time, it should be him from this scene." Zahu shook his head and said, "According to the plot of the animation, after Mewtwo escaped from Team Rocket's control, no one knew where it escaped to. Then one day, I don't know what went wrong with its brain, and suddenly it wanted to copy a large number of Pokémon, and then let these copied Pokémon rule the world with him. The final ending is that Mew suddenly appeared and fought with Mewtwo, and then Xiaozi decisively used his life to let Mewtwo know that his idea was actually nonsense, and then he took all the copied Pokémon away with him." However, Zahu clearly remembered that this happened before the Quartz Conference, probably during the period after Xiaozi returned home. Why, now that the Quartz Conference is over, Mewtwo is doing this? Is it because he was released early, so he thinks humans are not bad, and hesitated until now, before deciding to rule the world? If it is it, I will directly notify the Alliance to capture it." Kona said. "Notify the Alliance?" Zahu frowned. "If the Alliance is notified, it will be easy to resolve this turmoil. Never underestimate the power of humans, especially the Alliance, which represents the strongest power of humans. Hone's Aqua Fleet and Magna Team can capture Groudon and Kyogre, and Sinnoh's Chinga Team can capture Dialga and Palkia. With the strength of the Alliance, it is really not difficult to capture Mewtwo. The reason why humans respect the mythical beasts so much is, on the one hand, because of the concept of this world, that humans and nature develop in harmony, and on the other hand, because of the divine duties represented by these mythical beasts. Just like the 3 stupid birds in the Orange Islands, a human collector can easily capture them, but is it useful to capture them? Not long after catching 3 of them, the weather of the whole world was in chaos, and the world was almost destroyed. However, as a Pokémon created by humans, Mewtwo does not have any divine duties, so if the League knew about it, they would probably capture it and study it. Although he was almost beaten to tears by Mewtwo, Zahu still liked Mewtwo very much, or sympathized with it. A Pokémon created because of human ambition. It was never asked whether it was willing or not, and it was created like this and used as a tool. If the League got it now, there would be no shortage of crazy researchers in the League, and Zahu really couldn't bear it. Let the League prepare the first level force and gather at the seaside. If they get our signal, they will take action, but if they don't, they are not allowed to take action. Zahu said. He didn't want Mewtwo to suffer, but compared to this little sympathy, he cared more about Xiaozi and the others. In the plot, Xiaozi died directly once, so in order to prevent accidents, it is better to be well prepared. No problem, so let's go now. Kona said. Yes, let's go now. If things go well, we will go to the Orange Islands next. Zahu said. Are you not taking me Arwath and Kajiro? Kona said. Recently, there are a lot of things going on at the research institute, so it's better to let them stay. Zahu said seriously, thinking, after the matter is settled, we can fly directly to the Orange Islands and live a good life together. Why would I bring to light bulbs with me? Then let's go. Kona saw through Zahu's intentions, but did not point it out. He rode Zahu's Pockets and flew in the designated direction. Chapter 104 Fantasy. Zahu and Kona each rode a flying mount and headed straight for the new island. Articuno and Pockets were both speed types. Although they were carrying Zahu and Kona, they still flew very fast. In a short while, they arrived at the new island. As they approached here, the originally sunny weather became extremely gloomy, and heavy rain continued. Zahu frowned slightly, but did not take it seriously. Instead, he urged Articuno to fly faster. Kona made the same decision. Although she was called the Ice Queen, she was not a pampered woman. On the contrary, she had experienced more difficult times when she traveled. After a while, a brand new fortress villa appeared in front of him. Is this the place where the Pokémon made it by itself? Kona was surprised. If it created a villa by itself, then the Pokémon really had the same intelligence as humans. No, it was higher than most humans. But this time, after asking, there was no answer. Kona was surprised and was about to ask again. But when she looked in the direction of Zahu's gaze and saw a cute pink elf on the windmill in front of her, her expression froze. After a long while, she said, "Is this Mew?" "Yes, Mew, the rarest Pokémon in the world, and its genetic composition is complex, as if it has the original genes of all Pokémon, but because no one has caught it so far, no one can confirm everything," Zahu said. "You won't." Kona didn't finish her words, but her meaning was very clear. "Don't worry, I haven't done that yet. Although Mew won't kill people, its personality is naughty, just like a child who hasn't grown up, but I won't do that to catch it." Zahu shrugged and said, being able to fight Mewtwo without losing is not something he can think of at the moment. After getting Zahu's affirmation, Kona was greatly relieved. There was also Mewtwo below, and if he confronted Mew again, it would really be troublesome. Just when Kona was relieved, Zahu took the initiative to drive Articuno to find Menghuan, who was playing on the windmill, and said with a kind smile, "Hello." Menghuan looked at Zahu strangely, as if he didn't expect that someone would come to greet him. He tilted his head, thought for a while, and then playfully turned his body in the air and called out. Others couldn't understand, but Zahu could understand it now. He knew that it was Menghuan who was greeting him, and smiled. "Yeah, I'm fine too." Menghuan blinked cutely. This human in front of him could actually understand what he was saying. When he thought of this, Menghuan became even happier. He turned his body in the air a few times, and chatted with Zahu. Zahu also patiently teased Menghuan. These Pokémon, especially this kind of mythical beast, are sensitive and simple and kind. They don't have the ambitions and complex emotions of humans. Basically, it feels like, if you are good to me, I will be good to you. It is very difficult to subdue them. The legendary beasts have their own pride and their own ways of training their strength. They are not in a hurry to follow the trainer to enhance their strength. However, it is easy to make friends with them. As long as they have no bad intentions, they can basically be friends. Especially Mew. He has the naughty and playful personality of a child. This time he came out to play because he felt the power in Mewtwo that was similar to his. The Mewtwo below has captured many people. I want to rescue them. Can you help me? After chatting for a while, Zahu made his request. Mew didn't think much and quickly nodded and agreed. It was kind-hearted. It would do anything to save people without Zahu saying it. Now that Zahu, a friend who just met, wants to help, he will help. Anyway, there is no danger, and it is fun. After getting the affirmation of Mew, Zahu was greatly relieved. The brain circuit of Mewtwo is not very normal now. If he doesn't take insurance, he might be crippled. He is not Xiaozi, and has no aura. He must be steady. Patiently, Zahu and Kona flew into the castle from the air. As soon as they entered, they saw a blanket of black balls flying around, followed by powerful Pokémon being forcibly captured one by one. What is this? It's obviously not the Pokéballs of these Pokémon, so why can they be captured directly? Kona frowned. She was born in an extraordinary family, and was one of the 4 heavenly kings of the Alliance. Although she might not be able to get the latest technological products at the first time, she basically knew about them at the first time, but she really didn't know about this ball. If you can capture Pokémon by force without fighting, even if it's someone else's Pokémon, then is there any meaning in Pokémon Duel? Is capturing still useful? Dark balls, I've seen them in the Rockets information, but it seems that the Rockets haven't developed them so well. Even if Mewtwo loses his fighting ability one day, he can probably be a scientist. Zahu said. Dark Ball, the invention of Team Rocket, can forcibly capture other people's Pokémon and stimulate the inner evil and power of Pokémon to the maximum potential, but it seems to cause certain damage to the Pokémon itself. It has appeared in the movie version of Celebi, but Mewtwo's Dark Ball is different. It seems that Mewtwo has improved it himself. Not to mention that it can directly capture Pokémon by force, but more importantly, even if the Pokéball is taken back, it can still swallow the entire Pokéball. It's really a bug. Zahu even doubts whether this is a modified version of the Master Ball. It will hit the target if it comes out. The technology of Team Rocket has been so advanced. No wonder they were so happy when they raided Team Rocket's base before. Kona suddenly realized, although the most outstanding doctors in the league are not inferior to the researchers of Team Rocket in terms of experience, technology, and wisdom, they are basically upright people who love Pokémon. They will not develop technologies such as Dark Ball that harm Pokémon, so they often look inferior to underground organizations such as Team Rocket, because they don't care about harming others for their own benefit. It can be said that they have no scruples. Zahu replied while looking for Zyossi and others. While Zahu and Kona were talking, Mewtwo below finally noticed the few people who suddenly appeared. With a strange look in his eyes, he first stared at Zahu. Zahu was the first person who could treat him without using him, since he was born. But then, when he found Mew beside Zahu, his eyes immediately showed a strong murderous intent. His eyes almost turned blue in an instant, and he pulled Mew with one hand, trying to pull it down by force. Mew tilted his head, seemingly not understanding why this Pokémon with similar energy and breath would attack him. He used his tail to disperse Mewtwo's superpowers, and then floated down first. Zahu and Kona also noticed that Zyossi and his group were about to come down with their Pokémons, and at this time, several dark balls floating on the side floated towards Articuno and Togekiss. Attack! Zahu quickly ordered. In fact, Zahu didn't need to order. Articuno and Togekiss found these dark balls powerful in the sky, so how could they let these balls get close to them? Articuno screamed, and snow automatically fell within 2 or 3 meters around its body, destroying all of Mewtwo's dark balls, and even Togekiss didn't need to be attacked. Mewtwo was slightly stunned, as if he didn't expect Zahu's Articuno to be so powerful, but when it saw Mew, it no longer cared about other Pokémon, and said with the power of telepathy, only one person can survive between you and me. Then, Mewtwo rolled a ball, and threw it at Mew. Mew was caught off guard and was hit, and then he also got angry, and rolled a ball back. Chapter 105, Mewtwo's Abnormal Brain Circuits. Mewtwo and Mew, two legendary Pokémon, were firing at full power. It was really a fight between gods. Missiles flew all over the sky, sand and rocks flew everywhere, and there was a constant roar. Zahu and Kona waved their hands and asked the trainers who came over to come closer to them. Whether it was Kona's status as one of the 4 Heavenly Kings or Zahu's status as the champion of this quartz conference, it was enough to convince these people, so they came over without much hesitation. Kona looked at Zahu. Although she was one of the 4 Heavenly Kings, she had obviously handed over the decision-making and command rights to Zahu, and Zahu took it over confidently, leading a group of people to sneak inside. The power of Mewtwo and Mew is the same, so there is no need to worry about either one. On the contrary, Mewtwo is not in his right mind now, so let him fight first, and when he finds that he can't kill Mew, he will talk to him. These trainers who had survived many waves had just been punished by Mewtwo, and they no longer had any pride. They followed Zahu and the others obediently. When they got inside and saw the Pokémon being cultivated in the huge transistors, they were all surprised. Is that Venusaur? Blottus? Charizard? Gyarados? The trainers reported the names of these Pokémon in surprise. Under normal circumstances, these crystal tubes are tools for cultivating artificial synthetic biological genes, and the green nutrient solution inside is standard. But if this theory is followed, doesn't it mean that the Pokémon here are all copied? Could it be that even such Pokémon can be copied? Zahu, what are you doing here? If it was before, Kona might be surprised to see this, but he has long been used to being surprised, so now he doesn't feel anything, but instead asked calmly, "Come to understand the cause and effect." Zahu walked to the control panel on the side and pressed a button, and the screen flashed. The screen flashed a snowflake-like picture, and then a laboratory appeared on the screen. After that, a mechanical voice sounded intermittently, "Our machine. To copy Pokémon, we must first." Zyozzy and the others looked confused. Before they could figure out what was going on, a mechanical hand suddenly appeared from nowhere, grabbed Pikachu, and stuffed it into the machine on the side. Zyozzy's face changed, and he pounced and grabbed Pikachu with force. Zyanagang and Zyarksha grabbed Zyozzy's legs, and then they grabbed Pikachu back with force, but the mechanical hand still grabbed a few hairs of Pikachu, and took it back. Pikachu's cute big eyes showed a miserable expression, and he touched his tail. It hurt so much that he wanted to cry. Then, the mechanical screen on the side changed again, and a voice appeared and said, "Such a small amount is also okay. As long as we can analyze the genes of Pokémon, we can copy a new Pokémon." After the voice stopped, a brand new Pikachu appeared in the crystal tube. "Pikachu?" Zyozzy looked at the new Pokémon with a confused face. Pikachu called cutely, indicating that the original was here. "How is it? The replica we made is more detailed than expected." The computer screen changed, and a stone slab with a dream pattern appeared, saying, "This is the legendary Pokémon we found." Kazuhu took out his mobile phone and took a photo first. "What are you doing?" Kona asked curiously. "Don't you think this photo is a dark history of Mew? It's silly and cute, and it's completely different from the cute style in reality." Zahu said. "Preserve the dark history?" Kona rolled his eyes at Zahu in annoyance, and continued to listen to the sound of the machine. "We found the eyelash fossil of Mew, brought it back, analyzed its genetic composition, and used this machine to create Mewtwo. It is our dream to create the strongest Pokémon in the world. Mewtwo has a violent and unpredictable personality. This research institute has been destroyed. The only way left is to abandon this place and escape." "What's the reason for this?" "This is the research institute that created Mewtwo, so who created it?" Kona asked puzzledly. "It should be Mewtwo who destroyed the entire research institute, and then moved these machines away, and brought them here for research." Zahu answered, then took out the USB flash drive he had prepared long ago, and inserted it into the computer here, quickly downloading the data. "The black technology here is really outrageous. Just using a few hairs of Pokémon, you can copy a whole Pokémon, which is simply monster technology. As for the Dark Ball, it goes without saying, it is the real version of the Master Ball." Zahu is very interested in these two technologies. It's just that researching these is not only very difficult, but also requires more manpower and material resources. Just saying that it is against humanity will be abandoned by the mainstream. If Zahu stutters openly, he will probably join the rocket team, so Zahu usually only dares to think about it, but now that someone has already studied it, Zahu certainly doesn't mind taking it for reference. After downloading all the data, Zahu unplugged the USB drive and said, "The exploration is over. Next, let's go to the front and take a look. The fight should be almost over. Also, Misty and Gon, catch Zyozzy for me. Pikachu is ready to shock him with 100,000 volts." "Huh? Brother, what are you doing?" Zyozzy was confused. "Why did I suddenly become a criminal?" Zahu glanced at Zyozzy and was too lazy to answer. The reason was simple. He was afraid that you were not in your right mind. Suddenly, you ran between Mewtwo and Mew to block two waves of attacks. Zahu and his men went forward again. Mewtwo and Mew had already broken through the roof and moved the battlefield to the sky. Various energy bombs flew all over the sky, making the sky colorful. Zahu released Articuno, flew out boldly, and then stopped in a safe place 4 or 5 meters away from the two Pokémon and said, "Can you two give me some face and stop fighting?" Mew tilted its head and looked at Zahu, giving Zahu this face. In fact, it didn't want to fight, but Mewtwo's brain circuit was abnormal, and it insisted on destroying it, the genuine version, to prove its existence, so it had no choice but to fight. Mewtwo looked at Zahu, as if he remembered that it was because of Zahu that he could leave. After thinking for a while, he retracted the missile and said, "Human, get out of the way. Don't fight, right? Both of you give me some face. We are all Pokémon. No matter what the reason for your birth, you are all unique since your birth, so why fight to the death? We are from the same roots. Why are you so anxious to fight each other?" Zahu said earnestly. Mewtwo frowned, looked at Zahu for a long time, and then said, "What roots are you talking about? I don't understand." Zahu thought of countless responses from Mewtwo, but he never expected Mewtwo to give an answer of "I don't understand." He had to scrap all his prepared ideas and laughed dryly. "It's just that we are all born with the same genes, so we are all family. I can guarantee that there is absolutely no closer relationship than the two of you in the world, so you should be like relatives. Why do you have to fight as soon as you meet? Especially Mewtwo, you said you are dissatisfied with Mew, but don't you think that Mew is actually your only relative? If it weren't for it, I wouldn't have to appear in this ugly world." Mewtwo said disdainfully. "Mewtwo, isn't it good to be alive? When you created these copy Pokémon, did you ask them if they were willing to be created by you?" Zahu asked back. "What are you talking about?" Mewtwo's eyes emitted a faint blue light, and a strong majesty burst out. Articuno cried hurriedly, and a stream of ice and snow automatically fell around. Mew's tail floated, and came to Zahu, blocking Mewtwo's superpower for him. To be honest, it didn't understand why Mewtwo wanted to fight it to the death. It was sleeping on the seabed, and it came here because it sensed Mewtwo's power similar to its own. As a result, it fought with its life as soon as it came, which was completely inconsistent with its idea. Isn't it good for everyone to play hide and seek together? Why fight? To be honest, isn't it good to be alive? Just like you are alive now. Look at the sky, look at the earth. What's the point of fighting to the death? In fact, many grass-type Pokémon reproduce asexually, and there is no such thing as parents. For example, Starfish is hermaphrodite. So, big brother, you are directly copied, which doesn't mean anything. Zahu said. Really? Mewtwo said. You have flesh and blood, so you are not a dead thing, but a real life, and even a unique life race. There is no second Mewtwo in the world except you. So, you are an existing life, a new Pokémon, Mewtwo. Zahu said. So, I should be the one to rule this world. Humans are lower creatures than Pokémon, and should not own this world. Mewtwo said. Zahu raised his eyebrows wildly. He found that he could no longer keep up with Mewtwo's train of thought. At first, he created a bunch of Pokémon copies, as if he really wanted this new generation of independent Pokémon to dominate the world. But then, when he saw Mew, he abandoned everything, and planned to eliminate the culprit who caused his birth. Why is he going back to the same path now? You are the only decent human I have ever met. Come and help me. Let's rule this world together. Mewtwo said. Chapter 106. You are really not the strongest. Zahu looked at Mewtwo, trying to figure out the words, and laughed dryly. I appreciate your kindness, but I don't think ruling the world is fun, and life is pretty good now. In addition, forgive me for being blunt, it is impossible for us to rule the world with our strength. Nonsense. I'm the strongest Pokémon and the strongest Pokémon trainer. Who can stop me? Mewtwo retorted. A lot of people, among humans, various alliances, and the largest underground organizations in various regions are generally okay. In addition, the strongest Pokémon is really not you. Zahu said. If it's not me, who else can it be? Mewtwo's eyes glowed blue again. Brother Alpaca, Arceus. But there are really many Pokémon that can resist you. Lugia from the Orange Islands. Ho-Oh that is flying somewhere. Groudon. Kyogre, Rayquaza from Hone, Dialga and Palkia from SYNOPSIS. As for Unova Kalos, let's not talk about it for now. There are very few Pokémon that can fight you, but there are indeed some. Zahu said seriously. He hadn't said anything more cruel. These mythical beasts were not only as strong as Mewtwo, but also had divine duties. Mewtwo was not like that. Although it was a mythical beast and its racial value was not lower than these, it would not matter if it was killed. However, if one of the most powerful Pokémon died, the world would be destroyed. Are you serious? Mewtwo's eyes were filled with murderous intent. You should be able to judge whether what I said was true or false. Zahu said. Mewtwo looked at Zahu for a long time. After a while, it seemed to be sure that what Zahu said was true. Then he stretched out his hand and burst out a blue light, which penetrated the brains of all the people and Pokémon below and said, I don't want others to know about what happened today. You are responsible for arranging these people. In addition, I will verify whether what you said is true or false. If it is proved that what you said is false, you will accompany me to conquer the world. After that, Mewtwo turned into a blue light and flew towards the sky without even taking the copied Pokémon with him. Mew's body floated in the air as if it felt bored. It called Zahu and then floated away lightly. Will you come and play with me again when you are free? Then come to Pallet Town to find me whenever you want. Zahu said with a smile and finally managed to resolve the matter. Just looking at the two figures disappearing in the sky, Zahu couldn't help but sigh again and said, other people who travel through time all have the halo of the protagonist, and the mythical beasts are like cabbages on the roadside that you can dig whenever you want. Why have I encountered them twice here, but in the end I didn't get anything? Is it because the halo of the protagonist in this world is abnormal, just like Zyros or do the mythical beasts have the pride of mythical beasts and don't want to be conquered? Zahu was thinking alone, and the Articuno under him suddenly raised its head, which scared Zahu and almost jumped down. He quickly leaned over and hugged Articuno and said, what's wrong? Are you angry? Articuno nodded and called again. I understand. I said the wrong thing just now. Zahu touched Articuno's head gently, knowing that his words just now had irritated Articuno. Divine beasts have their own pride, so they don't follow humans. To put it the other way around, doesn't that mean that the divine beasts that follow humans have no pride? That would be a slap in the face of Articuno. Articuno was slightly relieved and cried out again. After Zahu heard it clearly, he frowned because Articuno was asking what he would do if it left one day. After hearing this question from Articuno, Zahu really started to think about it. As everyone knows, in the Pokémon world, separation and reunion are common, and separation includes separation from one's companions in Pokémon. If one day, he really separated from Articuno. After thinking for a long time, Zahu touched Articuno's head and said, if there really is a day when we have to separate, then I will let you go, but remember, we are always best friends. Articuno also showed a thoughtful expression in his eyes, and then he quickly rubbed his head against Zahu's face. Okay, even if we have to separate, it will be a matter for the future. Next, I will travel to the Orange Islands with Sister Kona. By then, we should meet the strongest one among you, Articuno, and even meet Lugia. I will see if I can make you stronger, Zahu said with a smile. Articuno nodded, and there was a hint of fighting spirit in his eyes. One of the important reasons why it followed Zahu was to defeat Moltres and Zapdos in the same batch as it. Now it will go to the Orange Islands to become stronger, and it will be easy to beat them when they meet in the future. Let's go down first. Zahu drove Articuno to land, and then frowned at the group of unconscious people. This should be Mewtwo using his superpowers to directly erase the memories of this group of people to ensure that the things here will not be leaked. But how to send these unconscious people back? And how to deal with these Pokémon that have not been copied yet? After thinking for a while, Zahu threw out Snorlax, first destroyed the control panel and all the data here with a destruction ray, then sent a message to Ziba, and finally ran to the side, kicked Zyozzy, squeezed out a space, and lay next to Kona pretending to be unconscious. I don't know how long he lay there. Zahu suddenly heard the sound of a helicopter, and then felt that he was carried on a stretcher, and then there were a lot of strange noises. After a long time, Zahu heard the sound of Zyozzy and others waking up, and then he pretended to open his eyes, as if he had just woken up. Then, Zahu pretended to have the same expression as Zyozzy and others, as if he had forgotten everything. Everyone didn't care, and didn't pay much attention. Only Ziba, who came all the way, mocked Zahu and Kona. It was really embarrassing that the 4 Heavenly Kings and the Quartz Conference champion fainted inexplicably and had to ask him for help. Seeing Hiba's smug expression, Zahu and Kona looked at each other tacitly, then tacitly released the Ninetales, and started fighting decisively. Hiba was confused. What was going on? Didn't I just make a few sarcastic remarks to vent my frustration at being beaten up by you scumbags at the Quartz conference? Why are we going to fight now? With a strong sense of unwillingness, Hiba's Onyx fell down helplessly and completely lost its ability to fight. Hiba helplessly hugged Onyx to the side and shed tears. He found that he had really forgotten something very important. At the Quartz conference, Kikuko and Kona were 2-on-1, and now Zahu and Kona were still 2-on-1. They all had more people than him. Regardless of Hiba who was licking his wounds in the corner, Zahu and Kona directly dealt with the remaining matters. They said they would deal with it properly, but in fact there was nothing to deal with. The trainers were all fine, and the information in the research institute was violently destroyed by Zahu. The only thing to deal with was the copied Pokémon. Zahu called Dr. Oak to discuss it, and decided to send them all to the Oak Research Institute. So far, the matter has finally come to an end. Chapter 107 to Ryalu. After temporarily ending the Mewtwo incident, Zahu and Kona took Zylzi and a group of people to Ziba's manor to ask for his Ryalu gambling money. Lucky for you, my Lucario just gave birth to 2 Rylus. You can choose one. Ziba led a group of people into his manor, looking dissatisfied. Why did I be so stupid to bet with Zahu? It's better to cut my flesh than to give Ryalu away. What's the matter? You are willing to accept the loss, and you should have gambling manners. Besides, I just want 2 Rylus from you, right? I haven't asked for your Lucario yet. Zahu said sarcastically. If you dare to ask for it, I will dare to turn my face to you. Ziba said with a tiger face staring at Zahu. You turned your face against me for a Lucario. It's a waste of my finding so many fighting Pokémon for you, you big pigshoof. Zahu said unhappily. What do you mean by for Lucario? If Lucario is not good, why did you directly tell me that you want Lucario instead of arm strength? Ziba was not happy. That's because I want to try wave guidance, to see if my wave guidance and Ryalu's wave guidance can resonate. As for you, you have been taming it for more than a year, but you can't use your wave guidance, and you can't resonate with Lucario at all. Then for you, Lucario is just an ordinary Pokémon, that is to say, in terms of strength, it is no match for your super strength now. Zahu said. Lucario is really the most misunderstood Pokémon. It can be said that it is the screenwriter's own son. The theatrical version of the animation is basically one theatrical version of one mythical beast, so the protagonist Pokémon that appears in the theatrical version is often directly regarded as a mythical beast by the audience. Lucario is the protagonist in the theatrical version of the hero of the wave guidance, so many people who are not aware of it will directly regard Lucario as a mythical beast. Even if they know it later, they will still think that Lucario is a quasi-mythical beast. However, in reality, Lucario's racial value is only 525, which is exactly the same as the racial value of the 8 evolutions of Eevee, and even worse than the final evolution of the 3 Pokémon. But Lucario is a natural fighter. Give me another year, and I will lead him to the championship. Ziba said with a hint of fighting spirit in his eyes. That's true. Zahu nodded. If he remembered correctly, the racial value of fighting type Pokémon is generally not low, but it is generally not very high. Apart from a few legendary beasts, it seems that the highest racial value is the 3 fire type Pokémon, Blaziken and Infernape, which are more than 530. Besides, it is Lucario. In addition, compared with the above few, Lucario has a far superior combat acumen than ordinary Pokémon because of the wave guide, so Pokémon specializing in fighting generally want a Lucario. When Zahu was pitting Ziba, he chose Lucario without hesitation. Just because among the general fighting Pokémon, if you choose the most representative Pokémon, it is basically Lucario. While chatting, we approached the Pokémon gym of Ziba. As soon as we entered, the first thing we saw was a dazzling array of fitness equipment, followed by countless strong Pokémon doing hard training. Several monsters lifted barbells that would make the world weightlifting champion ashamed, sweating. A Bilang and Shawarang fought head on. One was a boxing ghost, and the other was a kicking ghost. The shadows of their fists and legs were so fast that it was almost impossible to see clearly. Okay, these are the 2 Railu for you. Choose one yourself. Ziba led a group of people to the innermost part, and the 2 Railus stood on the platform. Choose one of the 2. Zahu stared at the 2 Railus. Both Railus were born from Ziba's Lucario. They were absolutely excellent in qualifications, and the difference was not big. However, the 2 Railus behaved very differently. One was lively and active, with bright brown eyes, and looked at Zahu with curiosity and expectation. The other had an indifferent expression, which was totally unlike the character of a Railu. Moreover, his eyes were dull, and he seemed to have a feeling of sadness. Why are the 2 Railus so different? Zahu asked curiously. I don't know. I was out on a mission not long after you were born, and now I'm back with you. But judging from the performance, this Railu who didn't move has a stronger Wava guide. Among the Railus I've seen, it can be ranked in the top 3. I just don't know why it is so silent. Ziba said. Let me check them both. After I get this Pokémon, I can't return it. Zahu said. Okay, but since you have to check them, you can also help me check all the Pokémon in detail and take care of them perfectly. Ziba smiled. I know. I had this in mind when I came in. Zahu shrugged indifferently. All of Shiba's Pokémon specialize in physical attack. During various trainings, Pokémon often have some hidden injuries, so from time to time, Zahu has to come over for a comprehensive checkup and care. This is why Zahu and Shiba have such a good relationship. Although Kajero and Meowth are not here, Zahu is a professional in checking Pokémon. Soon, a series of data emerged, including 3-dimensional data on Pokémon, as well as 6-dimensional data evaluation on physical attack and special attack. The pros and cons of a Pokémon can almost be seen directly. Zyozzy and the other 2 who have seen Zahu check Charizard are not surprised, but Shinji and Xiaomeo who have not seen it yet are again amazed, and then they show a subtle smile to Zahu. Zahu rolled his eyes and said, come on, a few more of you won't be too much. Thank you, brother Zahu. Shinji and Xiaomeo said overjoyed, and immediately released all the Pokémon they brought with them. Xiaozzy, aren't you coming? Kona called Xiaozzy subconsciously, and found that Xiaozzy had run to the Railus, and sat in front of the silent Railu, staring at each other, and the silent Railu's eyes suddenly became lively. He was secretly surprised what was going on. Kona didn't think it through, but seeing that Xiaozzy seemed to be in trouble, he didn't call again. After Zahu checked all the Pokémon here, he began to check the 2 Railus, and the data he got made him helpless. The lively Railu was very good, with good development in all aspects of the body, and its Wava guide was above the average level, with excellent qualifications. The silent Railu seemed to be born with a deficiency, and many aspects of the body were not well developed, and even had ears that were deaf. It was definitely a disabled Pokémon, but its Wava guide was ridiculously strong, far exceeding the normal value of an ordinary Railu. Chapter 108 Xiaozzy got lucky again. Deaf. Congenitally disabled. No wonder he has been silent all the time. It seems that he is hopeless in the future. Xiaomao shook his head. The most important thing for a fighting type tactic is to have the ability to judge the surroundings. If he loses his hearing, his combat effectiveness will be reduced by who knows how much. Not to mention, how can he hear the trainer's command if he is deaf? So, this Pokémon is almost useless, and no trainer will come to subdue it. Xiaomao, what did you say? He is not hopeless, he will be very strong. At this time, Xiaozhi suddenly retorted angrily. Why? Look, he has no reaction when I talk about him now. Isn't it because he can't hear at all? Xiaomao said. He felt that what he said was very objective. That's right, no one will want a Pokémon that can't hear the trainer's command in the future. Shinji was even calmer. No one would be willing to subdue a Pokémon that can't cooperate with him. Maybe there will be some kind-hearted people to adopt it. There are many such institutions in the Pokémon world, and many injured and disabled Pokémon are taken care of there. But for a warrior Pokémon like Lucario, such a life is useless. Someone will want it. If no one wants it, I want it. Xiaozhi said. You want it? It will only waste your time and energy to capture such a Pokémon. Shinji frowned. He felt that Xiaozhi's mind was not normal sometimes. No, he is very strong, and will become the strongest Lucario. Zyros, shouted excitedly, and then looked at the Railu with a sincere look in his eyes. Railu, are you willing to go with me? Railu's eyes flashed, and he actually jumped to one of Zyros' shoulders, and he and Pikachu took half of each other. What's going on? Shinji Zyomeo was surprised. Isn't this Railu deaf? Zahu saw this scene and his face became strange, and then he smiled and said, Zyros, are you connected to the Wava guide of this Railu? Although Zyros' protagonist Halo has always been known as a fake Halo, except that he can meet the mythical beast every day, there is almost no special performance. But if you look closely, there are still special features, such as the Wava guide. Although he didn't master it well, the wave guide that Zyros possessed was absolutely ridiculously strong. I can sense the emotions of this Railu, as well as his past. Does this count? Zyros said. Yes, it definitely counts. Zahu nodded with a wry smile. If he could directly sense Railu's inner activities, if this wasn't a common wave guide, there would be no wave guide. Zyros, this guy, is a natural wave guide warrior. Seeing this scene, Ziba rolled his eyes, and showed a cunning smile and said, you guys are going to choose this one, right? Then our bet is complete. Who told you that? This is Zyros' choice, not mine. I'll choose the normal one. Zahu said. Hey, I made a bet with you, but I only lost one. Don't think you can have both. Ziba said. I want one, this one. The other one is what Zyros wants. You are kind and generous, and have the demeanor of an elder, so give it to him. If you are stingy and mean, and don't look like a king at all, then don't give it to him. Anyway, I'll take this one first. Zahu stretched out his hand to the active Railu, and Railu also jumped into Zahu's hand. Okay, we've made our choice, Sister Kona, let's go. The beautiful orange islands are waiting for us. Zahu said. Okay, let's go. Kona smiled gently, and walked out the door with Zahu, as if they didn't care about Ziba's decision at all. Ziba looked at Zahu's straightforward back, showing an ashing expression, and cursed inwardly, dead fox, little Yinex. Master Ziba? Zyros looked at Ziba with expectation and desire. Okay, take it away. Hiba waved his hand impatiently. The Wava guides were all connected to each other. If he didn't let Zyros take it away, maybe Railu would run to Zyros one day. If he didn't give it to Zyros, he would just be a villain in vain. After all, the decision of Pokémon cannot be forced by a breeder who is not a trainer. Especially this Railu is born with a defect. It is deaf. Railu can't hear Hiba's command at all. Other trainers will not look at it. Zyomeo and Shinji are living examples. Zyros doesn't want it, and it is estimated that no one will want it. So in a sense, when this Railu and Zyros share the Wava guide, the owner of this Railu is Zyros, and even Hiba has no extra choice. Zahu and Kona, who came out early in the morning, but did not walk far, but stood at the door waiting, looked at Zyros holding Railu, and came out happily, and knew that their idea was successful. Shiba, the king who specializes in fighting type, is full of love for all fighting type Pokémon. If a fighting type Pokémon can find a trainer that suits him, he will never stop it. Brother, we got Railu together. Let's compete in the next Johto League competition to see whose Railu is stronger, okay? Zyros challenged passionately as soon as he went out. Even if yours is better, you can't beat Brother Zahu, not to mention that it is a congenital deficiency. Shinji shook his head. Zyargang, Zyraksha, and Zyomeo also nodded in unison. That's because you don't understand this Railu at all, right, Railu? Zyros moved his shoulders, and Railu's eyes showed a hint of fighting spirit, and looked directly at the Railu on Zahu's shoulder. The Railu on Zahu's shoulder also burst out with a strong wave power, and stared at Zyros' Railu. Although the two Railus are brothers, they have become the biggest enemy at this time. Feeling the fighting spirit of Zyros and Railu on him, Zahu couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. This Railu belonged to the one that no one wanted, and then Zyros wanted it. So, Zyros picked up a leak again. As we all know, Zyros has many nicknames, such as the Flying Master, the Master of Reverse Attributes, the Master of Releasing Life, etc. But one of them is very important. The title of the King of Picking Up Leaks. The first Pokémon in his life, Pikachu, was picked up by leaks. If Zyros hadn't gotten up too late, his first Pokémon should have been the 3 starters. After that, except for Incarnadine, the main pets of each generation of Fire, Charizard, Infernape, and Cheo Pig, etc., were discarded by other trainers and then picked up by leaks. Therefore, it can almost be concluded that all Pokémon that Zyozzy picked up by leaks must be very strong in the end. Especially this defective Riolu. It is really God who closed a door and opened another door. If Zyozzy can communicate with it, the power of the Wava Guide will always replace the ears. I accept your challenge. After we defeat the Orange League, when we meet in the Johto League, we will have a duel. Zahu touched Zyozzy's head and said, Orange League? What is that? Is it powerful? Zyozzy asked curiously. That is the Challenger Cup of the Southern Cross. It is different from the Quartz Conference where a group of people participate in the competition. It is similar to a single player game. Challenge the 4 gyms in the southeast, northwest, and northeast. After getting the badge, challenge the chief trainer of the Southern Cross, Yuji. If you win, you can get the winner's cup and enter the Hall of Fame, leaving your footprints and those of your Pokémon for future generations to admire. Zahu said. Is Yuji powerful? Shinji asked the key question. If the trainer is good, he will fight him before going home. If he is weak, he will go back to Sinnoh to let Electabuzz evolve into Electabuzz. If the 3 of you go to fight, the odds of winning and losing are 50-50. If you're lucky, you can win, but if you're unlucky, you'll lose. But he's the challenged, so he can't change his Pokémon, and you as the challengers can change your Pokémon at any time, so your chances of winning are slightly higher. Zahu said. Brother Zahu, what you mean is that if he can change his Pokémon, we'll lose. Shinji said. Almost. Zahu said. Then before the Johto League, I'm determined to fight in the Orange League. Shinji said. Count me in. Zyomeo said, and me. Zyozzy rushed to the front, fearing that he would be left behind. Okay, you 3 should prepare well. With your current strength, it's not difficult to pass 4 gyms, but it's difficult to defeat Yuji. Remember, if you really start fighting, you must be prepared to fight 3 against 5, because with your current Linoop, Yuji's Dragonite can at least fight 3. Zyozzy's Charizard is a little better. If Pikachu works hard, it may be possible to fight 2 for 1, but the probability of 3 for 1 is also high, so it must be 3 against 5. Zahu said. 1 for 3, 3 against 5. Zyozzy and the other 2 showed surprised expressions. Brother Zahu, this is impossible. Dragonite is so strong, so the other ones can't be weak. How can we fight 3 against 5? Zyomeo frowned. Generally, the main Pokémon of trainers have different strengths, but they are generally in the same batch. You can rest assured about this. Although Yuji's Linoop is very good, with Ditto, Venusaur, Jenga, Onix, Electabuzz, and Dragonite, they are basically in their final forms, but he basically only cultivates Dragonite. The other 5 combined may only be able to beat Dragonite. Zahu said. If he only cultivates 1, it is possible to fight 3 against 5. Zyomeo nodded. Brother Zahu, can't Electabuzz and Onix evolve into Electabuzz and Steelix respectively? Why don't they evolve? Shinji asked in surprise. Because the evolution of Electabuzz requires special props, which have not been introduced to Kanto. Most people here think that Electabuzz is the final evolution. You Sinnoh are more professional in this regard, and have developed newer evolutions such as Electabuzz and Ultra Ryan Tyrannosaurus. Zahu said. I see, but if it is so, if it can evolve like this, its level must be not low. Shinji showed a thoughtful expression. He is the type of person who plans before taking action. Okay, let's say goodbye here. The Orange Alliance is not a challenge together, so I guess we won't see each other again. So let's meet again when the Johto Alliance comes. Zahu smiled and walked towards the pier with Kona. Don't you plan to take Meow Meow and Kajero with you? Kona said. They are very busy and probably don't have time to travel recently. Zahu said seriously, not caring about the mood of the 2 busy people. They are very busy, so I won't invite you. Kona smiled knowingly. This trip should be great. Zahu said, looking at the sunset in the sky. It will be beautiful. Kona closed his eyes, and the comfortable evening breeze blew through the hair beside his ears, revealing a happy expression. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 109 Orange Islands. The vast sea has no end in sight. From afar, it seems that the sea and the sky are connected. Sitting on Chenglang's back, Zahu turned around and leaned on Chenglang's slender neck, feeling comfortable, squinting his eyes, and feeling the warm and gentle climate of the Orange Islands. Unlike those prosperous cities in Kanto, the Orange Islands are truly pristine and the climate is nourishing. When Zahu first came here, he thought that, if he really wanted to retire in the future, he could buy a villa here and feel comfortable. We're almost at the Zargan gym. Aren't you going to prepare and challenge it? Kona said. Is it almost there? It doesn't matter. If it doesn't work, it doesn't matter if you don't challenge the gym. The main thing is to go on vacation. Zahu said lazily. Do you look down on our Orange Islands gym? Kona said. No, it's that the gyms in your Orange Islands are weirder than the other. Except for the direct doubles of the Eastern Star, the rest are all weird. Zygon Gym is relatively good, but Napulu Gym has to climb the snow mountain first, and Yuzu Gym has to take a boat to test something. They are more troublesome than the other. Finally, the Orange Islands Winner Cup is not very valuable. Just play it by the way. If it's troublesome, don't play it. Just take it as a vacation. Look at the wind, look at the water, and most importantly, look at Sister Kona. Zahu said with a smile. You have been watching me for so many years, and you still can't get enough of it. Kona chuckled. I can't get enough of it. I can't get enough of it in my lifetime. Zahu said. Kona glanced at Zahu coquettishly and smiled. If you want to play, then play. Anyway, my mission is to introduce you to the scenery of the entire Orange Islands and let you have fun. With Sister Kona accompanying me, I'm happy wherever I go. Zahu said. Stop talking nonsense. The Orange Islands are beautiful and have characteristics that are very different from Kanto. In addition, because of the special terrain, there are many Pokémon with special forms. You can try to capture them. It seems that you don't have any water Pokémon except Gyarados now. Kona said. I don't lack water Pokémon. The Pokémon I have now are actually very good. I have Ninetales, Sylph, and Togekiss in the fairy type. I have Gyarados in the water type, Articuno in the flying type, Haunter in the ghost type, Snorlax and Leafking in the general type, Dratini in the dragon type that has not grown up yet, and Lulu in the fighting type. In addition, Sylph can attack with psychic type, Snorlax can use grass type ultimate move Sunflame, and Articuno can also use water type special move. On the contrary, I lack electric type and fire type. It depends on when Dratini evolves into Dragonite. At that time, I can use the special moves of each attribute. Zahu said. Speaking of which, what Pokémon did you bring this time? I don't think you brought all of them. Kona said. Snorlax and King of Leaf are both sleeping in the backyard of the institute. Sylph and Togekiss like the environment of the institute very much and stay with my mother. So I only have 6 Pokémon in my hands now. Dratini, Haunter, and Riolu need to be trained. Gyarados likes the sea, Articuno wants to take revenge, and Ninetales seems to want to hook up with your Ninetales. Zahu said. Is your last sentence made up in your mind, or is it true? Kona rolled her eyes at Zahu, talking about people or Pokémon. Teacher has studied it specifically. After Pokémon are captured for a long time, they will become more and more like their masters, so what I made up in my mind will be very close to the truth. Zahu said. When you say it is true. Kona smiled and stretched lazily. Since becoming one of the 4 Heavenly Kings, she has rarely enjoyed such leisurely enjoyment. Especially when she looked at the lazy Zahu lying on Dragonite, her smile became even more intense. One of her biggest regrets was that she was missing someone when traveling. Now it can be regarded as a dream come true in a sense. The two sat on the dragon, drifting quietly on the sea, when suddenly Milotica was freely swimming in the ocean, its graceful body freely swimming in the waves. Minshao? Kona was slightly stunned. How could there be a Milotica here? Huh? Is there a Milotica? Zahu also raised his head curiously. took a closer look and said, judging from the swimming speed and the appearance, it has a first class training level. It is actually very difficult to judge the strength of a Pokémon. The so-called king level and elite level are more of a vague judgment, based on the power and speed of the special moves after fighting. But Milotica is a complete exception. The strength of Milotica can be judged from its appearance. Milotica with extremely high appearance must be strong. I just don't know who it belongs to. Milotica should not be wild. Kona said. Milotica, a Pokémon that needs special props to evolve, should not be seen in the wild. Miss Kona, long time no see. At this time, a young man wearing a white hat rode a Gyarados through the waves. The free-playing Milotic felt the man's arrival and immediately ran to his side in excitement. It was obviously his Pokémon. So this Milotic is Mr. Mikuli's Pokémon. But why is Mr. Mikuli not in Hone, but in our Orange Islands? Kona smiled at the young man. That's because I feel that it's a pity that such a wonderful thing as the Grand Contest is only in our Hone region. So I want to promote it to Kanto, Johto, Sinnoh and other regions, so that everyone will love the Grand Contest and make it as serious as the League Conference. Mikuli explained with a smile, and then looked at Zahu and said, this is the champion of this quartz conference, Dr. Zahu, who is famous in the Kanto region. Dago has mentioned you to me several times, saying that there must be a place for the doctor to be the champion of the future league. No, if Mr. Mikuli wanted, he could have been the champion long ago. Zahu smiled. He was no stranger to Mikuli. Later, when Dago wanted to concentrate on digging stones, he gave up the position of the Hone champion to Mikuli. But the people in the Hone League are really miserable. The current champion Dago, needless to say, is hiding somewhere digging rocks every day and has hardly taken care of the affairs of the Alliance. Just like in the animation, the Aqua Fleet and the Magma team controlled Kyogre and Groudon and almost destroyed the home continent, and this champion still didn't know where to dig rocks. Instead, the Johto champion Do was there to solve the problem. Then, the successor Mikuli is also a top-notch. Speaking of strength, Zahu feels that Mikuli's strength is almost the bottom among all the champions, and more importantly, he doesn't care about the Alliance at all. On the contrary, in the Grand Contest, this guy is the well-deserved number one. Although he is the Hone champion, he is not in Hone most of the time, but touring back and forth in Kanto, Johto, and Sinnoh. Especially in Sinnoh, he almost runs there every day to promote the Grand Contest and strive to make the Grand Contest popular. Of course, his achievements are also particularly obvious. In order to commemorate Mikuli's contribution, various places have even set up special Grand Contest trophies such as the Mikuli Cup. As long as you get it, you can use it as a broken ribbon medal anywhere to participate in the final Grand Contest. I just feel sorry for the people in the Hone Alliance. The 2 consecutive champions are unreliable. I really don't know who they offended. Thank you for your support. I will update 2 more chapters. Chapter 110. Gorgeous Contest. I'm holding a new Mikuli Cup competition on a nearby island. Would you like to join us? Mikuli invited Zahu and Kona. You want to make the other contestants despair by letting the 2 of us participate in the Mikuli Cup. Kona laughed. She and Mikuli were both experts in water-type Pokémon. Although they were not particularly familiar with each other, they had a good relationship. They had met at several exchanges of masters from all over the country, so they had a good relationship. Although you 2 are one of the 4 Heavenly Kings and the other is the champion of the Quartz Conference, the Gorgeous competition is not an ordinary gym competition. It not only depends on strength, but also depends on the beautiful performance of Pokémon. If you don't perform well, you may not even pass the first round of review, let alone the second round of duels. Mikuli said seriously. As the leading coordination master today, his admiration for the Gorgeous competition is completely beyond the imagination of ordinary people. Nowadays, the mainstream of each region is always the gym competition, and the strongest representatives are all the winners of the gym competition. The influence of the Gorgeous competition is very weak except for Hone and Sinnoh. Mikuli's goal is to promote the coordination competition to the world. As long as we focus on Pokémon and try our best to reflect the beauty of Pokémon, based on my and Kona's understanding of Pokémon, there will definitely not be so many strong ones in the Kanto region that we can't even pass the first round. as long as we pass the first round of review. The remaining games, I'm not saying, even if my performance is not gorgeous, I can directly beat the opponent's Pokémon to lose its combat ability and win directly. Zahu shrugged. The gorgeous competition is mainly divided into two stages. The first stage is the review stage, where trainers and Pokémon perform to their heart's content and maximize the beauty of Pokémon. This is also the place where a large number of contestants can be screened out. Even many people who get ribbon badges will be screened out in this round. The second stage is simple. It is a Pokémon battle. It is different from the ordinary gym battle. The Pokémon battle in the gorgeous contest is generally limited to about 5 minutes. Then, in this 5-minute battle, you should show the beauty of the Pokémon as much as possible. As long as the fighting method is gorgeous enough, even if you do not cause any damage to the opponent's Pokémon, you can still deduct the opponent's points. After the points are deducted, no matter whether the opponent's Pokémon still has the ability to fight, it will be eliminated directly. However, if you directly beat the opponent's Pokémon to lose its fighting ability during the battle, you will directly deduct all the opponent's points, which means you win. Zahu is very confident. If he wants to fight, he is absolutely sure that he can beat the opponent's Pokémon to lose its fighting ability before his Pokémon's points are deducted. But in this case, it is not a gorgeous contest at all. Mikali listened to Zahu's words and wanted to refute, but he was speechless. This master level Pokémon trainer, as long as he is not too unlucky, can basically pass the first round. Especially now that there are not many people in Kanto who are good at the gorgeous competition. Most of them can't be stopped. If Zahu or Kona can survive the first round, I'm afraid they can really win the championship with a rogue style. By the way, where is your Mikali Cup held? Kona asked curiously. It's on the nearby Zargan Island, otherwise I wouldn't let the Milotic swim freely here. Mikali replied. Zargan Island? In that case, it's really not just a matter of time. Zahu, do you want a challenge? It's just the right time to get back the gym badge of the Zargan Gym and the ribbon medal of the Mikali Cup at once. Kona said. See if my Pokémon want to play. The most beautiful fairy and Togekiss are not here. It's troublesome to go to the Pokémon Center to exchange them. It depends on whether Ninetale wants to go there to feel the atmosphere different from the gym match. If she wants to, she can go to compete. If Ninetale doesn't want to play, forget it. Zahu said. Everything is based on the will of the Pokémon. This is in line with the purpose of the Pokémon Gorgeous contest. Many people blindly think about how to show the gorgeousness of Pokémon's special moves, but they don't realize that the real key to the Pokémon Gorgeous contest is to show the gorgeousness of the Pokémon itself. The protagonist of the Gorgeous contest is the Pokémon. Mikali nodded in approval. Okay, since you said so, I would be sorry if I don't take the Mikali Cup of the Orange Islands Gorgeous contest. Zahu smiled. Then I don't mind at all. It starts at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. Don't be late. Mikali said. Don't worry, I won't. Zahu smiled. Agreeing to play in the Mikali Cup, Zahu and Kona checked in at a hotel nearby and stayed overnight. They went to register the next morning. Are you confident? Don't let yourself fail even the first round. If you do, it will make countless Quartz Conference players who lost to you collapse. Kona chatted with Zahu as he registered. If it was in the Hone region and the Sinnoh region, I really wasn't sure I could pass the first round of review, but in the Orange Islands, a place where there are not even a few famous Pokémon coordinators, I'm still very confident, especially my Ninetales. If it has fun this time, maybe when I go to Hone, I will take the opportunity to play in the Grand Festival. It sounds domineering to win the Grand Festival and the KIR Conference Double Championship. Besides, if I don't limit the difficulty for myself, I may not lose even once. It's too lonely to be invincible. Zahu looked lonely, as if he had searched the world for a defeat, but couldn't get it. Don't come on, how about we just fight? Kona said. Okay, 3 on 3, I'll send out Snorlax, Gyarados, and Articuno. Zahu said. You shameless guy, Snorlax has thick fat and is resistant to ice, and Gyarados and Articuno are completely beyond the range of normal Pokémon. How can you find a K in just 3 on 3? In an all-round battle, 6 on 6 is good, Kona said. But, during the King Challenge, it only takes 3 on 3, or even 1 on 1. Zahu said proudly. You just rely on the strength of your Pokémon. Kona rolled his eyes at Zahu and said, knowing that if he really fought Zahu 3-on-3 now, his chance of winning would be only 50% at most. If I don't rely on the strength of Pokémon, what can I rely on? We are Pokémon trainers, not Pokémon commanders. The first priority is to train Pokémon to be strong. If there is no Dragonite, the remaining Pokémon will probably fall to the bottom of the 4 Heavenly Kings. After all, isn't the most important thing for Pokémon trainers to train Pokémon? Zahu said as a matter of course. In Pokémon battles, tactics play a big role, which can help the weak defeat the strong and maximize the combat effectiveness of Pokémon. However, the command of tactics is limited. After reaching a certain level, it is almost the same. The level of tactical command of the champions in each region is actually similar. Even if there is a difference, it is not big. The key is the difference in the strength of everyone's main Pokémon. Chapter 111 Mukali Cup. Sister Kona, do we need to wear performance clothes when we participate in the gorgeous competition? Zahu looked at the backstage with surprise, and the contestants who were dressed up in fancy clothes looked embarrassed. Why, don't you know everything? How come you forgot? Kona said with a mischievous smile on her face. There are too many things to pay attention to. How can I remember such a small thing? If I hadn't met Mikali halfway, I would never have thought of participating in the gorgeous competition. Now, if I don't have a gorgeous dress, then I have to leave. Is this considered breaking my promise? Zahu said. No, because you have a dress, little fool. Put it on. I know you don't know how to bring it. Kona took out a gorgeous performance dress from Zahu's bag and said, huh, when did I have this thing in my bag? Zahu said in surprise. I helped you change. I prepared 2 sets of casual clothes, suits, dresses, etc. Kona said. I was wondering why it felt heavier when I was carrying it today. So that's why. Don't worry, Kona, I will definitely get you the ribbon medal of the Mukali Cup today. Zahu said confidently. Don't think too much. The champion of this game must be my sister. It has nothing to do with you. A hedgehog-headed child heard Zahu's confident declaration and looked at Zahu proudly. Ada, how many times have I told you not to mess around? The child's words just came to mind, and a queen next to him slapped the child's head in annoyance. I know, sister. The child said helplessly. Sorry, my brother was rude. I hope you can forgive me. The queen came over and apologized to Zahu and the others, but when she saw Kona standing next to Zahu, she couldn't help but show a shocked expression on her face. Are you Master Kona? I'm Kona, but I'm not a master yet. You are the gym trainer Dunmui of Zygarde Gym, right? Kona smiled. Yes. The queen nodded, looking at Kona with admiration in her eyes. Kona specializes in water and ice Pokémon, and is both beautiful and powerful. In Kanto and Johto, she is the most popular king, especially since Kona's hometown is very close to the Orange Islands. Dunmui admires her even more, and even sets her sights on Kona. Are you also coming to participate in the gorgeous competition? Kona asked curiously. As a gym trainer, he cannot leave the gym for a long time, so he is destined to not be able to collect 5 ribbon medals, so there is no point in having one. I can't leave the gym for too long, but I'm near the gym, so I'll take part in it and compete with the masters. Dunmui answered, and then looked at Kona curiously. Master Kona, are you coming to participate in the gorgeous competition too? No, I'm accompanying my brother Zahu to the Orange Islands to play and challenge the Orange Alliance. By the way, I met Mikali on the way, and then Zahu came here to participate. If I don't meet you here, I'll go to Zygarde Gym to find you later. Kona said. Master Kona's brother, Zahu, the champion of the Quartz Conference, is also here to participate. To be the champion of the Quartz Conference, he must have strength. How about this? If we can meet at this Mukali Cup, the victory or defeat of the gym competition will be determined by the victory or defeat of this game. If you win, I will give you the gym badge. How about it? Dunmui said to Zahu. No problem. Zahu agreed with a smile. He didn't even bother to play 2 games, so he could just play against each other directly. Then I wish you all the best. Try your best. The glamour contest is still very interesting, Kona said with a smile. Zahu nodded, took the dress from Kona, and quickly changed in the dressing room. After coming out, Kona couldn't help laughing at his appearance. Zahu said with a strange expression, "Why doesn't it look good?" "No, it's just that you put it on too fast, and many places are messed up." Kona smiled and stretched out his hand to help Zahu fix the collar and other things, and pulled the clothes straight by the way. Zahu stretched out his hand and enjoyed Kona's caring service at ease, feeling happy. After Kona helped Zahu put on his clothes, Zahu lined up with everyone and prepared to enter the venue in turn. Zahu was the 7th one. After the previous 6 had finished their performances, he came on stage leisurely. According to the fixed form of the glamour contest, he tried to throw the Pokeball in a cool way. A star-like phantom appeared, and then the 9-tailed fox appeared. The 4 judges all had expressions of admiration on their faces. It wasn't because Zahu performed so well. If it was in Hone, it would be just normal, or even below normal. But it must be said that the people of the Orange Islands have too little concept of the gorgeous competition. The first 7 people have no concept of the gorgeous competition at all. It's just like playing an ordinary gym match. It's all thanks to your peers. "Nine-tailed, show everyone your charm," Zahu said. Nine-tailed shouted happily, and the freezing light in the air sprayed out, freezing the entire venue in an instant. In an instant, it was like entering an ice and snow world. First, it glided freely and comfortably in the ice and snow world. Then, the tail of the nine-tailed glittered and emitted a burst of white light. While gliding, it smashed the icicles into pieces with its 9 tails, and sprinkled the ice particles on its body. The sunlight reflected on its white body, making it even more beautiful. The audience who came for Makala's reputation saw this scene and burst into thunderous applause. The 4 judges expressed their amazement at the same time, and agreed with this amazing unanimous tone. Release the nature of Pokémon, and create an ice field, to bring out the charm of Pokémon. It's great. Oh, I like it. The display of skills combined with the beauty of Ninetales is really beautiful. It is common to see 3 judges expressing their amazement in the gorgeous competition, and then Makali also nodded, basically confirming who the champion this time is. As long as he passes the first round, it will be difficult for the next person to stop this guy. Moreover, this guy seems to be quite familiar with the performance style of the gorgeous competition. Although he is not professional, he is first class among amateurs. After the performance, Zahu and Ninetales saluted everyone together and left the stage gorgeously. The performance was very good. Kona praised. "That's for sure. I said I must give you this ribbon medal of the Makali Cup." Zahu said. "I praise you a few words, and you are so proud. Maybe you won't even pass the first round of review." Kona looked at Zahu's proud expression and couldn't help but pour a basin of cold water on Zahu. "That's impossible," Zahu said confidently. Then, Zahu stood in the hall with everyone else, waiting for the display screen to show the contestants who would enter the second round. In the end, as expected, among the 8 contestants who entered the second round, there was Zahu's name, and of course, there was also the gym trainer of Zygarde Gym, Dunmei. Zahu looked at Dunmei and smiled slightly. This time, the badge and the ribbon were taken together. Chapter 112 Killing 2 birds with 1 stone. After many battles, the final winner of the Makali Cup ribbon medal will be born between these 2 players. The one on the left is our Zygarde Gym's gym trainer, Miss Atsumi. The one on the right is the champion of the Kanto Quartz Conference and the youngest doctor in Kanto, Mr. Zahu. The host of the Makali Cup gorgeous competition introduced all the situations to everyone. Zahu and Atsumi were facing each other on the competition stage. Atsumi looked at Zahu and said, "Drive Zahu, I never thought that I would play against you in the final of the Makali Cup. In this game, whether it is for the victory of the Makali Cup or the honor of the Zygarde Gym, I will do my best. I couldn't ask for more." Ninetales, make another gorgeous appearance. Zahu threw the Pokeball and said. Ninetales appeared on the stage lazily and gorgeously, and its stunning beauty shocked the audience again. If we talk about strength, Ninetales is not a very powerful character among the many Pokémon. Not to mention a group of mythical beasts, even a group of quasi-gods are much stronger than it. But if we talk about charm value, Ninetales will definitely be in the top 10 among thousands of Pokémon, and it will not be the 10th. In the environment of Alola where the Pokémon style is all broken, it can be said to be a breath of fresh air. I have studied the ice Ninetales of King Kona carefully, so your Ninetales is also in my calculations. Come on, my partner, Blastoise. Dunmui smiled confidently. Kami Blastoise stood on the stage with full momentum. It was already the final evolution form, and its expression changed from cute when it was Squirtle to fierce. Blastoise, use water cannon. Dunmui said. Kami Blastoise was taken away by 2 rocket launchers and burst out 2 powerful water cannons, which shot suddenly. Ninetales, flash of lightning, dodge. Zahu said. Ninetales ran quickly and dodged calmly. The 2 powerful water cannons could only hit the empty space, but Zahu's score still dropped. Although the drop was small, it was still a loss of points. Zahu shook his head secretly. The rules of the gorgeous competition were troublesome. If you were attacked, even if you were not hit, but your dodging method was not gorgeous, you would still lose points. Blues, continue to use the water cannon. Dunmui also understood the rules a little, and continued to command the attack. Ninetales, use the freezing ray. Zahu, who had learned his lesson, did not intend to hide again, but adopted a head-on combat strategy. Ninetales called out, shaking its tail, and sprayed ice blue rays from its mouth, directly freezing all the 2 water columns sprayed by Blastoise. Ninetales stepped on the ice column and used the lightning flash to run. Zahu said. Ninetales' eyes lit up, and without thinking, he jumped onto the water column that Blastoise had solidified, and then slammed into it fiercely. Blastoise was knocked to the ground directly, and Dunmui's score was directly deducted by a quarter. Then use the freezing ray. Zahu said. Ninetales blasted out an icy blue light, heading straight for Blastoise, who was lying on her back. Atsumi was anxious. If this move hit her head on and froze, her Blastoise would basically lose her ability to fight. She quickly ordered, Blastoise, spin your shell, and use the water cannon. Blastoise heard the trainer's command, and immediately spun around, then fired a water cannon at Ninetales. However, even if he tried his best, Ninetales' freezing light still turned his water column into an ice column bit by bit. The difference in strength was that Zahu's Ninetales was a king level main force, while Atsumi's Blastoise was only an elite level. Okay, Ninetales, use your Iron Tail to break the ice column, Zahu said. Ninetales' 9 tails shone brightly, and they used their strength to break the frozen ice column, and then hit Blastoise with each piece of ice. Blastoise, quickly shrink your shell, Atsumi ordered. Blastoise immediately retracted its head into its shell, using the solid shell to defend itself and block the ice, but the score was still deducted, and it was quite high, with less than a quarter left. It's no use being a coward. Nine-tailed fox uses its iron tail to throw Blastoise directly into the sky, Zahu said. Nine-tailed fox quickly ran closer to Blastoise again, and then its 9 tails glittered and inserted under Blastoise's body, throwing it up and throwing it into the sky. Blastoise was suddenly thrown into the sky, and Blastoise still stretched out its turtle head in confusion. How did I get to the sky? Looking at the ground getting closer and closer, Blastoise was startled again, and then immediately retracted his head again. Then, under Zahu's command, Nine-tailed fox immediately ran to the landing point of Blastoise and sent him into the sky again with one tail. Seeing Blastoise being toyed around by Ninetales, Dunmui was very anxious, but every time Ninetales threw Blastoise into the sky, it would throw the direction of Blastoise's water arrow tube towards the sky. Even using water cannon to attack the ground to generate momentum did not work. Zahu showed a proud smile. Ninetales' strength was not particularly strong, but its speed and skills were no joke. Among his Pokémon, only Ninetales could do this kind of toy skills. Similarly, ordinary Pokémon could not escape the fate of being toyed around by Ninetales. 10 seconds later, Dunmui's points had been deducted, and Blastoise had been beaten into circles, but Ninetales was still playing with great interest. In the end, it was only under Zahu's order that he reluctantly let Blastoise down. I don't know if the poor child will suffer from acrophobia in the future. Dunmui showed a helpless expression. Sure enough, Master Kona's brother was not someone he could stop. It was just that he was beaten too pitifully this time. Next time, he should let the challenger compete with him in surfing normally. Macaulay smiled. This kind of trick of not knocking down the opponent directly, but using the opponent's strength to achieve one's own unique style is a style unique to the Grand Tournament. It is better than he thought. He did not use brute force to directly beat the opponent, to lose the ability to fight to win the game. In this way, the publicity is meaningful. Then, under the gaze of everyone, Mikali gave Zahu the ribbon medal of the Mikali Cup, and then Dunmoi gave Zahu the gym badge of the Zygarde Gym in private. After playing a game and winning 2 badges, Zahu felt that he had made a fortune. He walked out of the venue with Kona, sat on the dragon, and headed to the next gym. You played very well just now. Mikali asked me to ask you, are you interested in being a promoter of the Grand Tournament in the Kanto Johto area besides playing gym games? Kona asked with a smile. Nonsense, I'm now Pokémon Doctor, Pokémon Special Searcher, and new traveler. Where do I find the time to help promote him? Besides, the grand contest is boring. Okay. Just now, in order to show my grandeur, I could have used the Ice Beam to beat Blastoise, but I had to let Ninetales use Iron Tail to break the ice pillars, using the beauty of light refraction to deduct points from Dunmoi. Zahu said. If those coordination masters heard what you said, they would have to collectively challenge you. The grand contest has its own way of fighting, you just don't like this way. Kona said. Pokémon duels are simple duels with winning as the goal, while in the grand contest, you have to think about how to show your beauty while thinking about winning, and your energy is scattered. Although it cannot be said that there are no masters among the coordination masters, it is generally recognized that the strength of coordination trainers is generally not as good as that of trainers who play in the league. Okay. Zahu said. Kona smiled and said nothing. As the orthodox 4 heavenly kings of the league, he actually agreed with Zahu's words. Chapter 113 Crystal Rock Snake. Zahu and Kona were sailing on the sea in a dragon. It was more like a trip than a challenge to a gym. On this day, the two arrived at Pankan Island, which was full of glass products. This is Pankan Island, which is famous for its glass crafts. Most of the residents on the island are masters of making glass crafts. It is also a place frequented by tourists. The glass products here can be said to be the best in Kanto. Kona was a free tour guide for Zahu. It's a work of art, so buy some for Ninetales and the others to play with. Zahu said. You really think about Pokémon all the time. Speaking of which, there is a legendary Pokémon on this Pankan Island. Kona said. Legendary Pokémon? 3 mythical birds. Lugia. Zahu asked curiously. No, none of them, but a crystal rock snake, known as the god of glass. It is said that anyone who has the honor of seeing it will make the most realistic glass products. That is the real art. Kona said. Crystal snake? Its whole body has turned into crystal. It is not afraid of water, but it is afraid of fire. Its fighting power is average. It is probably a little better than ordinary novice Pokémon. However, it is a good symbol of a mascot. Moreover, its structure is special and has research value. Zahu said. From your tone, why do you seem to be able to catch it if you want? Kona said with a strange expression. That's because I seem to know where it is. Sister Kona, do you know any place on this island that is submerged when the tide rises and then separated from this island and then shows the way back when the tide recedes? Zahu said. There seems to be a place. Wait a minute, let me see the comprehensive map. Kona pressed her watch. As one of the 4 heavenly kings of the alliance, her authority is beyond imagination. Apart from other things, this 3-dimensional all-round map includes the general terrain of all places in the 3 regions of Kanto, Orange Islands, and Johto. Got it, this place fits what you said. Kona pointed to a point on the map and said. Okay, then Sister Kona's time as a tour guide is over. Next, I will be your tour guide and take you to see the legendary glass god. Zahu said with a smile. Kona smiled slightly and followed Zahu, looking forward to seeing the crystal rock snake in a while. She has been to Pankan Island many times, but she has never seen a crystal rock snake. The two arrived at the location shown on the map. At this moment, the tide has not yet receded, and there is still a piece of sea water in the middle. However, with Chenglang here, this obstacle is not an obstacle at all. Soon, Zahu and Kona entered a cave. The walls of the cave were covered with natural crystals, shining with crystal light. It's really beautiful. There are so many crystals here. The crystal rock snake may indeed be here, but except for the lake in front of us, there seems to be no place to hide things. But isn't the rock snake afraid of water? Not to mention in the water? Kona first admired the scenery around, and then looked at the lake in front of her in surprise. You guessed right. As for Onyx being afraid of water, it's just an ordinary Onyx made of stone. This one is made of crystal. Although its strength may not be high, it is not afraid of water, but it is afraid of fire. Zahu shrugged and did some popular science. He threw out the mini dragon and said, use 100,000 volts in the water. Meow, the mini dragon called out, and put its tail into the lake. A strong current burst out. Not long after, a sturdy Onyx suddenly broke out of the water in the lake, looking at Zahu and Kona with a ferocious face. Gyarados, beat it up. Zahu was too lazy to command and threw out Gyarados directly, letting Gyarados play freely. Raw Gyarados roared like Onyx the first time it appeared. Then Onyx looked at Gyarados' sturdy body and ferocious expression and became scared. It subconsciously wanted to run away. As a result, Gyarados suddenly pounced forward, and then swung its tail, tied up the crystal Onyx tightly, and then beat it up in various ways. Why does this scene feel like the strong bullying the weak? Kona looked at the scene. Crystal Onyx's fighting power was really not that good. There was no such thing as fighting back the whole time. It was completely suppressed and beaten. It made people feel guilty just watching it. Isn't it like this in Pokémon duels? Zahu said without any psychological burden. While he was talking, the crystal Onyx had been beaten to a pulp. Then Zahu calmly threw out a Pokéball, which beeped a few times, indicating that it was successfully captured. Onyx evolves into Steelix, from rock and earth attributes, to steel and earth attributes, but this crystal Onyx is not afraid of water at all, and I don't know what its attribute is. If it evolves into Steelix, what will happen? Kona asked curiously. This question is very meaningful. I still can't figure it out for the time being, because I don't know if I will train it. To be honest, this Onyx is very special, but its fighting potential is very ordinary. If it weren't for the research value of Crystal Onyx, I wouldn't bother to subdue it. It would probably have the same fate as the 4 Eve Kings in my backyard, a research object. Zahu said. Studying Crystal Onyx, do you want to copy a bunch of crystal armors? Or develop another crystal attribute? Kona said. The fairy attribute is natural and large scale, but this crystal attribute is an accident among accidents. Speaking of this crystal attribute, the only thing we know about it is that it is afraid of fire. The rest is unknown. Zahu said. If everything is known, what do you Pokémon doctors do? Kona laughed. That's right, but I don't need to worry about Crystal Onyx. Just send it to the teacher for research. Zahu laughed. During the conversation, Zahu suddenly heard a voice outside, and he could vaguely hear Zyozzy and a few others talking. Zahu couldn't help but look strange, and turned back curiously, to look in the direction of the cave entrance. Sure enough, there were 5 people in a group, and Zyozzy and Zyarksha were among them. Brother, why are you here? Zyozzy looked at Zahu with a surprised face. Traveling with Sister Kona? I also want to ask you, where is Zyargang? Zahu glanced around, but didn't see Zyargang, so he asked curiously. Professor Oak asked us to help him get the GS ball from Professor Archiki, and then Zyargang stayed there. He said he found his life goal. Zyozzy replied. Life goal? Zahu raised his eyebrows. He vaguely remembered this incident, but if he remembered correctly, the last incident seemed to become Zyargang's shadow. Also, this is my new companion, Zyrogian, a Pokémon observer, who has always admired you, brother. This is Agang and Zengmei, the glass crafts makers of Pankan Island. We are now helping them find the Crystal Onyx. Zyozzy introduced. Hello, Dr. Zahu. I'm Zyrogian. I've read all your works, especially the one about combining the habits of different Pokémon. Zyrogian looked at Zahu with a nervous look on his face. Hello. Don't be so reserved. Just call me Brother Zahu like Zyarksha and the others. When Zyozzy returns to Pallet Town, you can also go to Pallet Town. The teacher really needs an assistant now. You can give it a try. Zahu smiled. He also had an impression of Zyrogian. He was Zyozzy's travel companion in the Orange Islands. Later, he followed Zyozzy back to Pallet Town and stayed in the Oak Research Institute to help the master, Dr. Oak, to do research. Thank you, Dr. Zahu. Zyrogian was so excited that he couldn't speak when he heard that he could be an assistant to Dr. Oak. Zahu shook his head and smiled. Work hard. At first, I was just an assistant to the teacher. I hope you can become a doctor when you are my age. I will work hard. Zyrogian said firmly. Chapter 114 Crystal Statue. By the way, brother, we are here to find Crystal Onyx. You came here so early. Have you found it? Zyros, he asked curiously. It's here. Zahu didn't say much and directly released Crystal Onyx. So there really is a Crystal Onyx. Zyrogian looked at the living Onyx in amazement and started to draw without thinking. Zahu took a look and couldn't help but marvel in his heart. It was only less than 5 seconds from the time Zyrogian saw Crystal Onyx to now, and the general appearance of Crystal Onyx had already been drawn. He sighed in his heart. It turned out that the Pokémon world is abnormal. On the other hand, the little Lali Zengmui saw that Crystal Onyx had been subdued, and she burst into tears and said, Crystal Onyx has been subdued, so my brother can't make crystal crafts like grandpa. Zyrosi was embarrassed when he heard Zengmui crying. They came here to help Zengmui's brother Gong to subdue Crystal Onyx, and then let Gong make good crystal crafts, but now Onyx has been subdued by Zahu, and he can't let Gong subdue it again. Besides, one is the brother he has admired since childhood, and the other is someone he has just known for less than a day. Zyrosi said that he still stands on the side of his brother. Okay, Zengmui, don't cry, there is nothing we can do about it. Gong touched his sister's head and tried to comfort her, but everyone could hear the unwillingness in his tone. His grandfather used to be the best crystal craftsman on Pankan Island, but since his grandfather died, his handicrafts have only form but no spirit. Although they look good to outsiders, they are far inferior to his grandfather's. That's why he wanted to see the Crystal Onyx that his grandfather had seen before, to break through himself, but he didn't expect that someone had already gotten there first. Okay, don't be so desperate. You have a fire attribute Pokémon to make glass products, right? Zahu said. Yes, I have a Charmeleon. Agong said. That's no problem. You command Charmeleon to use the fire spray on the Crystal Onyx, and when the whole body of the Crystal Onyx turns red, you will know what is needed to make a good crystal craft. If you still can't do it after watching it, young man, you should change your career. Zahu said. Spray him? Agong looked at Zahu in confusion. According to his idea, he should catch the Crystal Onyx, then observe its demeanor carefully, and then carve it. But what does this fire spray mean? But since Zahu asked him to do it, there must be a purpose. Anyway, there is no loss. Then Agong released Charmeleon, and the flames burned. Crystal Onyx immediately turned red. Agong stared at Crystal Onyx. The man and the snake looked at each other. In an instant, something in his mind seemed to be opened, and countless sparks splashed. It seems to be successful. Zahu nodded. What success? Kona was puzzled. Training a master. Being a master is a pleasant thing, but training a master is also a sense of accomplishment, which is the same as training Pokémon to become stronger. Zahu said. So, you were teasing Zyomeo, Zyrosi and Shinji at the Quartz conference? Kona said. This is also to train enough follow-up forces for the Alliance. The key is that it is boring if you don't find a few younger brothers to play with. And as a trainer, of course you have to train all kinds of Pokémon. Zahu smiled slightly and put away the Crystal Onyx. Agong had regained consciousness by then and thanked Zahu. Thank you, Dr. Zahu. I know how to make glass crafts now. That's good. And make me some artworks by the way. Zahu said with a smile. Okay. Agong nodded and then took Zahu and his group back to his workshop to start refining glass artworks. The refining techniques in the Pokémon world are also interesting. They are not made with advanced technology, but with Charmeleon's jet flames. Speaking of which, it can be regarded as a feature of the Pokémon world, where the abilities of Pokémon replace high-tech machines. Just like the backup power supply of the Pokémon Center in Viridian City, it is the power collection of a group of Pikachus. After getting inspiration, Agong also refined First Class, and soon, a lifelike Pikachu crystal statue was born. Pikachu looked at the small statue that looked exactly like it, and immediately shouted excitedly, and the two red electric bags on his cheeks flashed with a faint current. Seeing the lifelike statue, Zahu raised his eyebrows and patted Gon on the shoulder. The two sneaked to the back and only said their request. Gon was surprised at first, then smiled knowingly, and said that there was no problem. After finishing the problem of Crystal Onyx, everyone set off again, and walked to the shore. Zahu sat on Kona's Dragonite, and Zyozzy also threw out a Dragonite he had just captured, sat on it and said excitedly, "Brother, this is my new Dragonite. Looking at the size, it should still be a small Dragonite, but it has excellent potential. Take good care of it." Zahu smiled. Zyozzy's Pokémon are generally different, especially the Pokémon in the original period, which are basically several times the size of the leader. This Dragonite later returned to the tribe and became the leader of the tribe. I will. By the way, brother, where are you going next? Do you want us to travel together and challenge the Napier Gym? Zyozzy invited. No, I'm very busy. Zahu said. Busy? No, brother, I see you and Kona are just playing. Zyozzy said, puzzled. 3 black lines appeared on Zahu's forehead. I have explained it so clearly, but you still don't understand. It was Zyozzy who reacted first and said to Zyozzy, "You little kid, stop talking." What? Zyozzy, you said I was a child. Aren't you a child too? Zyozzy said with a puffy face. Children are children. They get angry easily after hearing a few words. Zyozzy shook her head with an adult expression. Zahu also rolled his eyes secretly. Why do you little brats get involved in the affairs of 2 adults, himself and Kona? And, Zyozzy, you said that the teammates around you are more mature than each other. Zyanagang and Zyozzy are needless to say. Even Zyogyan is just honest on the outside. There are several pictures of beautiful women in this guy's sketches. This guy is just stuffy. Okay, stop arguing. There is a Rapids Island ahead, which is a good place for practicing and Pokémon training. Shiba once did Pokémon fighting training there. You two just captured Riolu, so it's a good time to go and train. Kona said. Pokémon training. Zyozzy's eyes sparkled. Zahu lowered his head helplessly, feeling angry in his heart. Why is my brother such an ignorant guy? Chapter 115, Rapids Training. The vast sea is endless, with white waves rising and falling, one wave higher than the other hitting the coast. In the ocean, several teenagers are riding on surfboards and riding the waves, shouting excitedly on the sea. Zahu and the newly captured Riolu are standing on the surfboard, keeping their balance in the waves, turning, and keeping their own rhythm in the waves. In the battle, it is very important for fighting Pokémon to have their own unique fighting art. That is, rhythm. Surfing can undoubtedly allow Pokémon to adapt to the rhythm faster and strengthen their response to crises. Fighting Pokémon do not need to run very fast, but the speed of attack must be fast. Zahu and Riolu played excitedly for a whole morning, and then gradually mastered the rhythm of the battle, while on the other side, they kept shouting Pika and Pika. Zahu controlled the surfboard and took a look at Zyozzy, who was lying on the surfboard on the other side, looking exhausted, and couldn't help but shook his head secretly. This guy's not only simple-minded, but also has underdeveloped limbs. What will he do in the future? Sighing secretly, Zahu glanced at another Pokémon Riolu on Zyozzy's surfboard that had remained silent and subconsciously revealed a thoughtful expression. As a Pokémon that Zyozzy picked up, this Pokémon must not be weak. It has remained silent for half a day today, but its body seems to feel the rhythm instinctively, and it is very indifferent. Unlike his own Riolu, which needs his encouragement, that one is completely calm and indifferent. No matter how big the waves are, it still has an expression of indifference. It's just that this indifference is good or bad for fighting Pokémon, Zahu can't say. However, how to train your own Pokémon is the trainer's own business. Zahu helped Zyozzy train Charizard, only because Charizard's foundation was not good, and now it has been repaired. Then Riolu is Zyozzy's own business. If he has trained him well, then what does Zyozzy need to do? Besides, Zyozzy's achievements in the original animation are good, so there is no need for him to add unnecessary details, so as not to make things worse. Thinking of this, Zahu concentrated on cultivating his Riolu, surfing on the sea, and enjoying a different kind of excitement. Gyarados and Ratani, who like water, also followed Zahu through the sea. Sometimes Zahu was knocked over by the waves, and it was Gyarados who saved Zahu. It was also because of the existence of Gyarados that Zahu and Railu became more and more courageous. In the end, one person and one pet jumped directly on the back of Gyarados, rode the wind and waves all the way, and felt the pressure and pleasure of the waves coming towards them. After playing for a long time and initially cultivating the prototype of Railu's fighting rhythm, Zahu fought with Railu on the beach again. It must be said that, although Railu is young, he has extraordinary talent. When he attacks seriously, he punches one by one, and it is powerful. However, Zahu is not a simple person. When he was at the Oak Research Institute, he examined various Pokémon, climbed mountains and swam to various extremes. In the beginning, because he was not skilled, he also injured electric shocks, water guns, flames and other attacks. Now his physical fitness is very good, especially since he once learned fighting skills from Zibba. Although he can't fight with the giant Onyx like that monster Zibba, he still has the strength to fight with Railu. After training for a long time, until the sunset, Zahu and his group finished the training, and enjoyed the sumptuous dinner cooked by Zyogyan with peace of mind. Zyogyan's cooking skills are obviously very good, otherwise he would not have been able to successfully replace Zyogyan, and take care of Zyozzy and Zyuksha, two guys who can't even tell the difference between firewood, rice, oil and salt. How many Pokémon have you captured recently? Is it only this Dragonite? Zahu asked during the meal. It is obvious that eating and sleeping are not talking for Zahu and others. It is common sense to chat while eating. Yes, we have only been here for a short time, Zyozzy said with a lack of confidence. If you have something to say, just say it. Why are you panicking? I don't blame you. I have only captured Crystal Onyx so far, and I don't know whether to train it as a main Pokémon or a research object, Zahu said. That Crystal Onyx is so rare, why don't you train it as a main Pokémon? Zyuksha asked curiously. The main Pokémon is determined by its strength, not its rarity. Besides, this Onyx is made of crystal, not rock, and is not afraid of water at all, but afraid of fire. Even its special attack moves are made of crystal, not rock. It is probably not a rock attribute, but I don't even know what the attribute is. Without knowing the attribute, I can't even arrange tactics, let alone command a battle. Zahu shook his head. That's right. If you don't know any attribute, you can't command. Zyuksha nodded after realizing it. By the way, Zyozzy, which Pokémon are you carrying with you now? Zahu asked curiously. It's still the same as before. Pikachu, Charizard, Squirtle, Bulbasaur, Railu, Dragonite. Zyozzy said. Huh? Don't you have a Pidgeot? Where's that bird? Zahu asked curiously. I put it in Oak Research Institute because Railu is too young and needs to be taken care of, and Dragonite needs to find a companion. Besides, this is the ocean, and Dragonite can take us across the ocean. Zyozzy replied. That's right, you and I obviously parted at Shiba and came directly to the Orange Islands. There's no place for that Pidgeot to be released, so I don't have to wait for you for 20 years. Zahu said. Wait for me for 20 years. What do you mean? Zyozzy raised his head and looked at Zahu strangely. What I mean is, you have been traveling until now, first released Butterfree, then sent a sample of Infernape to someone, and even wanted to release Pikachu. I was thinking, why don't you take some time to go back and see them one day? You may not be able to see Butterfree, but it's better to see Infernape more often. Don't go without seeing it for 20 years. Zahu said seriously. That's right. Then when I go home, I will go to see Infernape. When I pass by, its fighting level must have become better now. By the way, when the time comes, I can also ask Mr. Fandao to help me train Railu. Zyozzy said. Mr. Fandao? Is he the fighter who suggested that you keep Infernape with him so that he can better train Infernape? Zahu said. Yes. Oh. Then you kid, be careful, don't leave Railu there when you see it. If you dare to do so, I will break your legs directly. Zahu couldn't help but said. No, I'll let Infernape stay there, because Infernape is really suitable for fighting competitions, and Mr. Fandao is a professional fighter, but Railu, without me, Mr. Fandao can't understand Railu at all. Zyozzy said. That's good. Zahu nodded and then scooped up the rice in the bowl in a few strokes. We've finished eating, how about playing a game to digest it a little? Zahu suddenly said. What game? Pokémon Duel? Brother, shall we join? Zyozzy said. Don't think about the duel all the time. You want to be abused. Brother, I don't want to abuse the weak. It's boring to fight 6 alone. Zahu rubbed Zyozzy's head and said, release Squirtle. I have an idea and want to try it. Okay. Although Zyozzy didn't understand, he still released Squirtle very honestly. Then, Zahu walked up to Squirtle, touched Squirtle's slippery head, and said with a smile, little turtle, be good, first use the shell to shrink your body. Squirtle didn't understand, but seeing that Zyozzy didn't refuse, he honestly shrunk his body into the shell. Then Zahu raised the shell, showing a sinister smile, and threw it with lightning speed. Squirtle's shell hit the sea surface 4 times, before falling into the sea. It's great, it feels so fun to skip stones with Squirtle. Zahu clenched his fist, and showed an enjoyable expression. Kenna, Zyozzy, Zyaksha, and Zyogian were all dumbfounded. Using Squirtle to skip stones on the water, this idea, you can think of it. Jenny. If Zyozzy and the others were shocked, then the thrown Squirtle was angry. Although it didn't hurt, and it wouldn't be a big deal if it fell into the sea, it was very unhappy to be thrown like this, especially with its back facing down. It immediately opened its mouth and sprayed a water gun at it. Zahu dodged calmly to the side and said to Ryalu, remember, dodge attacks like this. There is a way to train Pokémon to dodge. Could it be that Dr. Zahu first researched this method? Write it down. Zyogian took out a small notebook and quickly recorded it. Kona's expression was stiff. Looking at Zyogian's actions, he wanted to say that this was just someone who had been comfortable for a long time and had nothing to do, so he did something stupid again. When Squirtle found that Zahu had dodged 3 water guns in a row, he was shocked and even more angry. He reached into the turtle shell on his back with his short hands and took out a pair of cool sunglasses and put them on his face. Seeing this action, Zahu's heart suddenly skipped a beat. It seemed that every time Zyozzy's Squirtle put on these glasses, he would do something big. Before Zahu's desire to survive could erupt, Zyozzy's Squirtle called Jenny a few times, and Kona and Zyaksha's Squirtle automatically jumped out of the Pokeball, and then put on sunglasses without thinking, and followed the boss's steps to spray water guns at Zahu. Suddenly, 3 water guns sprayed and directly covered Zahu's face. Zahu had no choice but to run, thinking to himself, I forgot that, although Zyozzy's Squirtle looked like a fool, he was actually the former leader of the Squirtle Corps and the big brother of Young and Dangerous. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 116 Island Special Training. The sunshine at the seaside is always particularly bright, and with the white waves and tall coconut trees, it is even more beautiful. Zahu stretched and stood up to train his Pokémon. This is the 10th day since Zahu came to this island. In the past few days, Zahu has lived a fulfilling life. In the morning, he surfs with Ryalu to train his sense of rhythm and cultivate Ryalu's combat instincts. In the afternoon, he trains Ryalu's fighting skills. In the evening, he studies the properties of crystal onyx. Of course, occasionally he fails to tease Squirtle and is sprayed with water guns instead. Needless to say, these episodes are not worth mentioning. Crystal onyx is indeed different. Zahu really doubts whether it has a crystal attribute. These days, Zahu has done experiments. The 3 attribute attacks of water, grass, and ground that restrain rock are all normal damage and there is no restraint. However, the 2 attribute attacks of steel and fighting have an effect bonus when they are hit. Zahu is not sure whether this guy has rock attribute. However, the damage caused by the electric attribute is negligible, so it seems that it has ground attribute. From this perspective, crystal onyx has a great advantage over ordinary onyx. The dual attributes of water and grass originally restrained onyx 4 times, but now they are all resisted. If there is a flaw, it is that Crystal Onyx's rock attacks have also become crystal attacks, losing the restraining effect. Of course, when attacking ground attributes, it will not be weakened. However, there is still a lack of overall research. Zahu plans to let Professor Oak do a good job of research for him when he returns to Pallet Town, and then let Onyx train the 2 tricks of invisible rock and digging holes. The strength of Gyarados, Ninetales, and Articuno has temporarily reached a bottleneck. Zahu did not restrain them. Articuno flew freely, Ninetales was busy hooking up with Kona's Ninetales, and then Gyarados turned the tide. Zahu thought about it, and let Dratini practice underwater combat with Gyarados. After all, Gyarados' father or mother is Dratini, and they are all a bit related. Usually, many of their skills are similar. Dratini is also very close to Gyarados, and it is the most worry-free to follow Gyarados. Zahu focused on training the remaining Haunter's physical strength, and then asked Kona to supervise. Then Zahu focused on training Riolu, who had no fighting power yet. He continued to train, walking through the waves, while trying to train his own sense of rhythm, while exercising his courage and courage, facing the huge waves, and still standing proudly. After rushing for a long time, Zahu felt a little tired, so he came back and saw that a wooden stake had been inserted into the ground at some point, and then Zyozzy and Zyraksha hit the wooden stake with their heads without saying a word. There was a loud bang, and then the 2 fell to the ground at the same time. Zahu's eyebrows jumped. What's wrong with these 2 little ghosts? Is self-mutilation fun? Walking over and looking at the 2 self-mutilating people, Zahu said with a strange expression, if you 2 feel that your brains are useless, you can give them to people in need. No, brother, we are training to GP, and we want to GP to learn a special move, Zyozzy said helplessly. Unlike in the animation, because Zahu has Togekiss, Zyozzy knew that the first person to GB saw after birth should be himself, so he didn't let Zyraksha take it away. But the result is still the same, because Tajb is still the same to GB, and still hasn't learned the special moves, and hasn't even entered the Pokeball. Every time Zyozzy trains, Tajb is ignorant, and Zyozzy is embarrassed to be strict. After all, it is just a baby. Then Zyraksha usually plays a role of nanny, and later Zyraksha is half a guardian. In the end, the father and the mother want to train, but Tajb said that you can't understand your orders. So, the scene just now appeared. So you 2 want to train Tajiba's Iron Head skill, right? Zahu said. Yes, so let's demonstrate it ourselves. Zyozzy said. But, are you sure Tajib can learn the Iron Head skill? Zahu asked curiously. Can't it? Zyozzy and Zyraksha said with a confused look. It seems that it can't be done. I don't remember that there is such a trick. Zahu said. He didn't dare to say it for sure. He had never trained his Pockets with this trick, and he had never seen other Pockets know this trick. However, after traveling for so long, he had forgotten some of the details before. He was not sure how many tricks Pockets could learn. He just vaguely remembered that there seemed to be none. Then how to train it? Zyozzy asked curiously. This finger wave skill. I will. Zyozzy, you are a trainer. You can demonstrate it. Zahu was about to say that he would demonstrate it himself, but when he thought of Pockets' grace attribute, he thought that safety was more important, and planned to give this arduous task to Zyozzy. How to demonstrate it? Zyozzy did not refuse. As a Pockets trainer, he felt that he should do anything for Pockets. It's very simple. You know to extend 2 index fingers, and then wave them in front of Pockets, shaking left and right, and moving in unison. Zahu said, quietly and secretly distanced himself from Zyozzy. Next, something should happen. Zyraksha was also looking forward to it. Compared with Zyozzy, who was heartless, she was Tajipa's real mother. However, when she saw Zahu's action, she subconsciously followed and moved away. Zyozzy, who didn't know anything, excitedly waved his little fingers in front of Tajipa, shaking left and right. Tajipa was amused and moved his 2 little fingers. Soon, the 2 little hands emitted a faint blue light, and then a strong wind suddenly broke out. Before Zyozzy could react, he was blown into the sky by the strong wind. This is the tornado trick. Zyrogian said in surprise. That's right, the finger wave skill can randomly shake out a trick for fighting face. It is exclusive to the European Emperor, and it is insulated from the non-African Emperor. Zahu said that except for some very special tricks, or the tricks exclusive to the mythical beasts, the finger wave skill can basically shake out all the tricks, but because it is random, no one dares to guarantee what the tricks are, so basically few people will train Pokémon to fight face with this trick. While several people were talking, a loud sound of falling into water was heard nearby. It turned out that Zyozzy fell from the sky, but Zahu was very calm. Isn't it just falling from the sky? With Zyozzy's physique, such a small thing is nothing. Sure enough, as soon as the sound of falling into water was heard, Zyozzy immediately ran over excitedly, picked up GP unharmed, and said excitedly, to GP, "I knew that you must be a late bloomer." Zahu raised his eyebrows in disapproval. Late bloomer, it seems that he is not wrong. According to the original trajectory, this GP will evolve into GP, and then become the leader of a group of GP, but if so, it will be released again. So, young man, it's useless to be excited, unless you don't release it. But in the hands of the master of release, is it possible? Zahu shook his head, and after solving the problem of GP, he wanted to go back to train his Pokémon. Suddenly, he saw Zyloxia's expression, that she wanted to talk to him. He frowned and said, "Zyloxia, what's wrong? Do you have something to say?" "Yes, brother Zahu, you are so powerful that you can let GP learn a special move, so can you let my Psyduck learn to swim?" Zyloxia said. Huh. Zahu was stunned. You also know that it is too outrageous for a water-type Pokémon not to be able to swim. Brother Zahu, you must have a way, right? Zyloxia said with admiration in her eyes. Looking at Zyloxia, who was like a fangirl, Zahu had 3 black lines on his forehead. If he said that he had no way, it seemed a bit sorry for his fans, but if he said that he had a way, he really didn't know what the way was. In the animation, this Psyduck didn't learn to swim, even when it reached the sun and the moon. It was still a real landlubber. In addition, if Psyduck could swim, would it still be the duck god? Chapter 117 Gotha Duck. Under the infinitely expectant gaze of Zyloxia, Zahu finally gave a solution. That was not a solution. Hypnosis. Zahu remembered that he had seen it in anime before, but he didn't know which episode it was, when Psyduck was unconscious, and didn't know how to sleep. The whole duck floated on the water. After all, no matter how hard it is to landlubber, it is still a duck. The body structure is different. As for how to hypnotize, it is even easier. When Ghastly comes, hypnosis will be used. Then Zahu grabbed Psyduck's head without hesitation, and threw it into the water. Then, after a long time, Psyduck didn't even float up. Zahu's confident expression gradually solidified, and Zyloxia's expectant expression gradually turned into anxious and nervous. Although she kept saying that she disliked Psyduck, she actually cared about it very much. She was a typical example of a person who said he hated Psyduck but was honest. He ran into the sea nervously and fumbled around. Zahu was also secretly anxious. He quickly called back several Gyarados and prepared to search. However, just as Gyarados arrived, Zyloxia fished out a Golduck from the sea. Then Golduck showed an excited expression when he saw Zyloxia and rubbed Zyloxia affectionately. "Zyloxia, is this the evolution of your Psyduck?" Zylogian said with a look of surprise. "The evolution of my Psyduck?" Zyloxia looked unbelievable. There was no sign. How could it evolve just like that? But if it wasn't her own Psyduck, a wild one wouldn't be so obedient. Or, you try to command and see if it listens. If it listens, it will. Zyozzy said. "Yes. Golduck, use the water gun." Zyloxia ordered. Golduck nodded his head and immediately sprayed the water gun obediently. "Spray the water gun." That telekinesis. Zyloxia ordered again. Golduck's eyes turned blue, and a mysterious power emanated from his body, lifting Zyloxia up, and then gently putting her down. So obedient. Zyloxia's eyes were filled with tears, and she almost cried. God knows how devastating it is to have a Pokémon that is silly all day long, giving orders, but even the trainer can't fully guarantee whether the order can be carried out. Gotha Golduck shouted excitedly, hugged Zyloxia happily, and buried his head in his arms, as if he had met a kind family. Zahu's mouth twitched when he saw it. Psyduck evolved. That's impossible. Even if the popular characters in the original series have evolved forms, their images are basically fixed. Pikachu, Meowth, Jigglypuff, Bulbasaur, and Squirtle are all like this. Evolution comes at a price. For example, Charmander evolved into Charizard, and the result was that Bulbasaur and Squirtle, two good friends, kicked it out of the chat group and didn't play with it. Togepi evolved into Togeko, and then even the memories of the 20th anniversary celebration didn't have the opportunity to appear. You know, even Starfish, Geodude, and Jigglypuff still have the opportunity to appear again. So, if Zahu guessed correctly, this Gotha duck is definitely wild. As for why he likes Zyraksha so much, Zahu vaguely guessed the answer, but he still needed to do a test. He said to Kona, who was training Haunter, "Sister Kona, please give this duck a sweet smile." Smile? Kona was stunned at first, but when she looked at Gotha duck, the corners of her mouth slightly curled up, revealing a stunning smile. Then, Gotha duck, who was originally hugging Zyraksha with a happy face, had shining eyes, as if she had seen a treasure, and then quickly got rid of Zyraksha, and ran towards Kona excitedly, then posed several bodybuilding poses, shaking the tendons on her body, with an expression asking for praise. Where did this Gotha duck come from? It's pretty cute. Kona came over, and touched Gotha duck's head. Gotha duck's originally bright eyes immediately turned into crescents, with an expression of enjoyment on its face. What's going on? Zyraksha's expression froze on her face. Why did my Pokémon run away with someone else? Zyraksha, wait a minute. Zahu looked at the Gyarados on the side. Gyarados understood and plunged into the sea. After a while, it emerged from the water with a Psyduck in its mouth. Psyduck? Brother Zahu, are you saying that this is my Psyduck? Zyraksha looked at the Psyduck in the mouth of Gyarados with despair. Why is God so cruel to me? He just let me enjoy the pleasure of being able to use special moves freely, and now he wants to beat me back to reality? That's right. Zyraksha, although your Psyduck will not never evolve, it is really difficult to evolve, so it's fine like this. Don't have expectations. There will be no harm. Zahu said. Then why does it listen to me? Zyraksha asked puzzledly. Because this Golduck is the Pokémon version of Brock, but unlike Brock who only loves big sisters, it likes any pretty girl, no matter what age. It listened to you before, because you are pretty, and now it doesn't listen to you, because Sister Kona is prettier. Zahu said. My head hurts. Zyraksha hugged her head tightly, just like when Psyduck had a headache, twisting her head frantically. Zahu shook his head, and ignored the collapsed Zyraksha. The teacher's research was still right. The better the relationship between Pokémon and trainers, the higher the similarity. However, looking at Golduck who kept posing in front of Kona, and showing off his fitness, Zahu couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. If he couldn't understand the Pokémon language, it would be fine. But he could hear the Pokémon's words, so now in his eyes, he felt like someone was teasing his sister. Holding his breath and sternly, Zahu tried to make a calm expression, and walked to Golduck, then decisively separated Kona and Golduck, looked at Golduck with a smile and said, "Sorry, I mistook you. You can go now." Golduck acted as if he didn't hear it, and continued to show off his cuteness in front of Kona. Zahu couldn't help but clench his fist, put his hand on the shoulder of Golduck, and said to Kona, "Sister Kona, we have something to talk about. Let's go to the side first." He said that regardless of Golduck's wishes, he pulled Golduck to a corner. When Golduck reached a place where no one was, he immediately distanced himself from Zahu, pointed at Zahu, and muttered something. "Why did you pull you here? Oh, then I tell you, go tease other girls, that girl, mine." Zahu pointed at Kona, and then stretched out his hand to point at himself. Golduck was surprised, as if he didn't expect Zahu to understand what he said, and then he said in a faster language without thinking, "Beautiful things belong to everyone. Here is the translated language, only Zahu can understand, but the ownership is mine." Zahu said. "Whoever is stronger should be listened to." Golduck said. "So, you want me to beat you up?" Zahu said. "I'm the Pokémon that will defeat you, and let you know how powerful I am." Golduck's eyes were bright, and then he gave himself a thumbs up. "You want to fight, right? Ocean or land, what do you choose?" Zahu said. "I now have Articuno and Gyarados." No matter what you choose, I'm not afraid. Ocean Golduck leaped and jumped dozens of meters directly and jumped onto a reef in the sea. Zahu was stunned. Sure enough, Pokémon with personality are not weak in strength. Where does the personality come from when they are indistinguishable from the crowd? However, no matter how strong it is, it will not be a match for Gyarados. Gyarados, interrupt. Let's beat a disobedient brother first. Zahu said. Roar. Gyarados roared, indicating that it was okay to abuse the younger brother. Golduck was also shocked when he suddenly saw Gyarados' abnormal size, but when he saw Kona on the side, he suddenly became more confident and jumped into the sea. The originally calm sea surface immediately raised several feet high waves. Pokémon's ultimate move, stepping on the waves. Gyarados, bite it to pieces. Zahu said. Gyarados raised its huge body, and its huge head broke through the waves head on, knocking Golduck away. Golduck flew into the air, but was not knocked far away. Blue light appeared in its eyes, and a mysterious telekinesis burst out around it. It stopped in midair, and then a golden beam of light burst out from the red bead on its forehead, accurately hitting Gyarados, which was too big to dodge easily. Gyarados felt pain, but redoubled its attack. Its huge body danced in the sea, and the waves were immediately turbulent. However, Golduck was able to stabilize its body in these huge waves, jumping back and forth between the reefs, and it was safe. Zahu was amazed. The strength of this Golduck was beyond his imagination. At present, although it was not yet a king, it had surpassed the general elite level, or it could be said to be a quasi-king level. As expected, Pokémon with personality are special among their kind. Since this is the case, Zahu also took it a little more seriously and said solemnly, Gyarados use Storm. Gyarados' body was straight and exuded a strange power. Suddenly, a strong wind blew above the sea, and a storm several dozen feet high mixed with waves rose up. Although Golduck was agile, it could only jump around in such an area. Being attacked by Gyarados' big move in such a large area, it was directly swept into it, and it was difficult to escape from the storm. Next, use the Destruction Death Beam. Gyarados' mouth was shining with golden light, and a burst of light beam shot out, accurately hitting Golduck in the storm. Golduck fell to the ground, and its eyes turned into circles, completely losing its combat ability. Chapter 118, Troublesome Goatherd Duck. Don't you want to capture it? This Golduck has good strength and qualifications. If you train it well, it will have a good future. Kona saw that Zahu had no intention of capturing it, and couldn't help but wonder. No, I already have Gyarados among the water type Pokémon, so I don't need to capture another one. Zahu said, even if I want to capture it, I won't capture this dead duck. You decide on your Pokémon. Come and have dinner. After dinner, we can almost set off. You have been training for a few days. You need a battle to improve your strength. The Napier Gym is not far from here. Set off now. Rest at the front Hasser Island at night, and you can reach the Napier Gym tomorrow. Kona said, her main force is basically determined. Except for the ice-attributed mythical beast, the rest of the Pokémon are dispensable to her, so even if Golduck is unconscious, she still has no intention of capturing it. As for Xiajian and the other three, knowing that Golduck was defeated by Zahu, they did not take the opportunity to capture it, but came together to have lunch. After a group of people enjoyed a delicious lunch, they boarded 2 dragons and rushed to the Napier Gym. The abandoned Golduck woke up at some point and looked around in confusion. Then the beautiful big sister was gone, and the vicious big bad guy was gone. It jumped suddenly, sat on the beach, showing a thoughtful expression, and finally jumped into the sea. After Zahu boarded the dragon, he no longer cared about Golduck. After sailing for half a day, he arrived at a new island. When it got dark, he went to sleep directly. However, he didn't notice that somewhere on the island, Golduck secretly came ashore and saw Zahu and the others with surprised eyes. He looked at Kona, then looked at Zahu, and finally gritted his teeth. Secretly lifted Zahu's quilt, gently touched Zahu's Pokeball with his duck bill, and took the initiative to go in. Zahu, who was sleeping, didn't realize that he accidentally had an extra Pokémon. He turned over, covered himself with the quilt, and went to sleep. It was not until the next day, when Zahu was counting his Pokeballs to prepare for the challenge, that he realized that he had an extra Pokémon. He was petrified on the spot. Zyozzy and his friends thought that Golduck liked Zyozzy, just like Psyduck liked Zyarksha, so they followed him and congratulated him. Zahu responded with a twitch in his mouth, and then when no one was paying attention, Zahu pulled Golduck aside and said, "What are you planning? I'll follow you to see the pretty girl." Golduck said bluntly, "Are you so sure that I will take you in and won't lose you?" Zahu said, "No, you are a professional Pokémon trainer and won't hurt Pokémon. Besides, you can't lose mine. I have telekinesis and I can follow you wherever you go." Golduck said confidently, "You rely so much on psychic powers. Can you remember that you are a water type Pokémon, not a psychic type?" Zahu said, "No matter what, psychic powers are useful, that's good." Golduck said excitedly, and as he spoke, he flirtatiously posed for a few fitness poses. Zahu's face turned completely black. How the hell does it feel to raise a Pokémon that covets his sister? Then why don't you follow Kona? Railu asked curiously. "I have dignity, okay. Although I like beautiful women, I'm also a Pokémon. Ordinary trainers are not qualified to subdue me," Golduck said arrogantly. Zahu looked at Golduck with the look of "You are an idiot. This guy really has poor eyesight." Kona's command level is higher than his own, especially in water and ice. He really sighs. However, after thinking about it, Zahu was lucky again. Fortunately, this dead duck has poor eyesight, otherwise if it took the initiative to run into Kona's Pokeball, wouldn't it be worse? Looking at Golduck, Zahu began to think about life. In terms of strength and potential, this Golduck is worth subduing, but this character is too ridiculous. What use do I have if you compete with your owner for a girlfriend? However, this guy's now his Pokémon, which is completely different. There is a big difference between getting into the Pokeball and not getting into the Pokeball. Just like Musashi and Misty disliked Goron and Psyduck at the beginning, but because these two Pokémon got into the Pokeball, they didn't throw them away, even if they said they disliked them. After thinking hard for a long time, Zahu suddenly smiled, took out his mobile phone, and swiped out a few beautiful photos of beauties to show Golduck. "What is this?" Golduck was so excited that he didn't know why. He wandered between various islands to see beautiful girls every day, but it was really rare to see a group of this quality. These three are the three sisters of Hualien. This is Nancy from the Golden City Gym. This is Rika from the Johto King. This is Takran, the champion of SYNOPSIS. This is Catalaya from the Unova King. And this is Karuna, the champion of Kalos. Come on, let's talk. Kona sister, mine, them, yours, this way. Everyone is good friends, Zahu said. Golduck tilted his head and thought for a while, then gave Zahu a thumbs up to show his agreement. "In this case, you will be my Pokémon from now on. Cooperate well." Zahu stretched out his hand and said. Golduck excitedly stretched out his hand and shook hands with Zahu, then jumped to find Zyarksha. "I can't have Kona. There is still Zyarksha. Let's be happy first." Zahu smiled slightly. How should I put it? Apart from teasing his girlfriend, the rest is very comfortable. After all, in the final analysis, Golduck is just a Pokémon. Most people will not care, just like cats and dogs sleep in the same bed with their owners, so they won't cause any trouble. If Zahu didn't know Pokémon language, he probably wouldn't take it too seriously. It's just that he can understand it, and he is narrow-minded, so this kind of thing happened. Stretching, Zahu patted Railu's little head and prepared to go out for training. However, when he and Railu walked to the beach, a Gyarados who was waiting for him did not show up at this time. Zahu frowned. This shouldn't happen. In order to cultivate the wildness of Pokémon, he had not taken back the Pokéballs of Articuno and Gyarados since they came to the Orange Islands. Instead, they were raised outside. He was confident that there would be no artifact Pokémon here that could hurt them. Why haven't they come out yet? Just as he was surprised, Gyarados suddenly jumped out of the water, and next to him was a Magikarp that was at least 10 times bigger than an ordinary Magikarp. A Gyarados and a Magikarp, two giants together, surprisingly well matched. Zahu scratched his head. What happened recently? Is it really the season for love? It's normal for Golduck to chase a beautiful girl. In the animation, that one seems to be like that, but what the hell is this Gyarados? I have raised this one since he was a child. I know his personality very well. Just looking at the huge Magikarp, Zahu felt that the behavior of his Gyarados was normal. When he got older, he always had to think about something. And the size of his Gyarados, except for the Gyarados that evolved from this Magikarp, there was probably no other model that could match it. However, there seemed to be only one Magikarp of this size in the Orange Islands. Zahu thought about it and looked up at the sea on one side. Sure enough, not long after, he saw a small boat passing by at a high speed in front of him. Zahu could see clearly that it was not a mechanical boat, but a boat paddled by people, but the speed was unbelievable, faster than an ordinary small yacht. At a glance, Zahu could only see a brown-skinned Joey passing by in front of him, and then it disappeared. But seeing this, Zahu confirmed the identity of this Magikarp. Chapter 119 Spring is here. Master, can I not leave? What was that just now? A motorboat? Zyos, he asked in surprise. No, it was rowed by hand, and it was Miss Joy. Zahu said, Miss Joy, how could it be so fast? Zyos, he said in disbelief. What's impossible? Don't think that all Miss Joy in this world are gentle and weak. You should know that there are thousands of Joy in this world, and it is normal for their personalities to be different. Zahu said indifferently. Excuse me, is this Gyarados yours? At this moment, a small boat came at high speed next to it, and it was the Joy just now. Yes, this Gyarados is mine. Excuse me, is Miss Joy okay? Zahu smiled. Miss Joy, how should I put it? Zahu thinks that the people of the Joy family and the Junsha family are both human-shaped Pokémon. Not only do they look exactly the same, they also monopolize the two major industries of Pokémon medical care and police respectively, and they are all good people. That's right, they are all good people, even if their personalities may have some problems, but they are basically good people. If this situation is the genes of normal people, it is really too low, but when it comes to Pokémon, it feels natural. There are basically no evil Pokémon in this world. It's just that, because the trainers do bad things, the Pokémon will follow suit. This is what Team Rocket's Arbok and Gaspam said in unison. It's like this. The environment here is quite remote, so there are no Pokémon centers on many islands. I have to travel frequently. Next, I have to go to treat a group of Magikarp. I need this Magikarp to clear the way for me. I wonder if it's okay to ask your Gyarados not to play with it first. Joey said. No problem, this is easy. Gyarados, be good and come back. Zahu said. Gyarados raised his head and called out, which meant that he wanted to continue playing with this Magikarp. Zahu scratched his head helplessly. He couldn't control the animal gene. He could only smile bitterly and said, Miss Joy, can I accompany you to treat those Pokémon? Want to see? That's fine. Let's go together. As soon as she finished speaking, Miss Joy hurriedly paddled the boat and rushed to an island. Zyossi, Zyaksha, and Zyogian were always the kind of people who would go wherever there was something to do. When they heard that they had to help Miss Joy, they volunteered one by one. Only Kona glanced at Zahu with a little dissatisfaction. She was just about to have a beauty sleep. I don't want to either, but who made our family's violent carp dragon fall in love with someone else's Magikarp? I'm also helpless. Zahu spread his hands and said. Falling in love with someone else's Magikarp? I guess it's going to be tiring for a whole day. Kona said helplessly. How about I give you a reward? Zahu suddenly smiled. Reward? What? Kona approached Zahu with a little expectation in his big black and white eyes. Reward? Zahu grinned, revealing a wicked smile, and suddenly approached Kona and kissed her directly. Kona's body stiffened, and her usually calm temperament became flustered at this time. She was at a loss. When she reacted and wanted to retaliate, Zahu had already jumped onto the Gyarados on the side. Only a voice came from afar. Sister Kona, don't chase me. Girls should be reserved. It's better for me to chase you. I'll go first. Little bastard. Kona cursed angrily. Don't catch up with you, otherwise you'll be an ice cube tonight. Okay, then I won't chase you, Sister Kona, and wait for you to chase me. A girl chasing a boy is like a thin layer of gauze. I'm optimistic about you, Zahu replied. Kona was angry and amused. Only then did she realize that she was taken advantage of by Zahu again. She immediately let Chenglang chase her, but the slightly raised corners of her mouth didn't look like she was angry at all. Zahu stood on Gyarados' head with a smug smile on his face. Just now, he accidentally did something he had been thinking about for a long time, but he had never dared to do. However, spring is here, so just be happy. Anyway, we are in the sea, so of course we don't need to paddle when rowing. We rely on the waves all the way. Standing on Gyarados' head, crossing one wave after another, his mood is getting better and better. The original plan to challenge the Napier gym had to be scrapped, and he played a cameo as a doctor's assistant, treating Pokémon on various islands. Once busy, it was busy until the evening. Zahu also saw the power of this Joey, paddling the whole time, and the speed was so fast that Gyarados could hardly keep up. Sure enough, everyone in this world is abnormal. Finally, everyone rested in the Pokémon Center again. The next morning, everyone planned to challenge the Napier gym again, but at this time, Gyarados suddenly told Zahu that it didn't want to leave. When Zahu heard the news, he was confused at first, then he didn't believe it, and finally he felt like a pig that he had raised for several years ran to someone else's vegetable field to eat cabbage, and didn't come back. Are you really going to stay, and don't want me anymore? Zahu touched Gyarados' head, and said with a complicated expression, "No, master, you will always be my master." Gyarados rubbed Zahu's body with his huge head. "But even if I'm your master, I can't stop you from finding a partner, right?" Zahu touched Gyarados' head and said, he always thought that the title of Master of Release had nothing to do with him, but he didn't expect to actually encounter such a situation. Even though he knew that the encounter, separation, reunion, etc. between Pokémon and trainers were common, especially the matter of finding a spouse. For example, Zyos' Butterfree and Musash's Butterfree must be released when the time is right. But Zahu was really reluctant to release them like this. "Master, you also know my situation. With such a big body, there is probably no other one that can match me after this evolution. If I miss this one, I will not be able to find a mate." Gyarados said with his head down, and his ferocious appearance showed a pitiful expression at this time. "I know, so, can you take it back to the research institute? I will dig another pond for you," Zahu said. "I thought so too, but it wants to be more comfortable in the sea, and I also feel comfortable soaking in the sea. The pond in the research institute is a bit small," Gyarados said. Zahu thought about it and was speechless. Yes, compared with the sea, the pond at home is indeed too small. It is not particularly obvious for ordinary Gyarados, but for the giant Gyarados, it is really too small and far less comfortable than outside. "Master, I will never give up on you, but we need to separate temporarily. After I help Ami evolve and make a baby, I will come to find you, and I can give my child to your child in the future," Gyarados said. "It's called by name. You call it Ami, and it won't call you Akiang," Zahu said. "Master, how do you know? You're not eavesdropping on us, are you?" Gyarados suddenly stood up and looked at Zahu defensively. "Get lost, I don't even want to hear such a vulgar name." Zahu slapped Gyarados in annoyance. Is this really the Gyarados he bred? Ami, Akiang, what kind of names are these? Gyarados then lowered his head again in grievance. "Since you have made up your mind, I can't stop you from finding your happiness." Zahu looked at the pitiful Gyarados, but he couldn't bear to be cruel after all. He touched Gyarados' head and said, "You agreed to come to me in the future. Don't really have a wife, and forget your friends. We will always be the best of partners. When the child grows up, I will come to find you, Master. I agreed to accompany you to various regions. After you become the champion and settle down, I will come here again. Then if you want to find me, you can come here to see me, or you can teleport me directly from Miss Joy if necessary. Just treat me as if I were in the research institute like Ninetales and the others, but the research institute is not needed. Besides, didn't you say that you might settle in the Orange Islands in the future? It won't matter then," Gyarados said. "Maybe. Anyway, you'll be alone in the future. You should be careful. And you're lazy. You never clean your waist area when I tell you to. Also, your teeth need daily care. When I'm not around, you need to protect your teeth. Talk to Miss Joy. She's a doctor. She's good at this." Zahu sat alone on the beach, stroking Gyarados' head, talking a little. He talked from morning to noon, for several hours, but he still didn't finish. It was only when Kona and the others were ready to go that Zahu stood up with a forced smile, stroking Gyarados' big head and said, "Be good. Remember to take care of yourself in the future. It would be best if you have a child by the time I bring back the Orange League's Winners' Cup." After that, Zahu smiled and walked towards Kona and the others, ready to head towards the Napier gym. "Are you reluctant to leave?" Kona said softly. "A little bit. After all, I raised it from childhood, and we caught it together. But I didn't expect to be separated here. I have imagined the distress of Ninetale's unwillingness to evolve, and I have also imagined that Articuno will find the other two divine birds one day and leave me after winning, or start to challenge the strongest one among Articuno, challenge the position of the god of ice, and then fly around the world. But I never thought that the first one to leave would be Gyarados," Zahu said. "The separation now is for a better reunion in the future. Look forward to the next meeting. This is also a departure that every trainer must go." Kona comforted. "Maybe." Zahu nodded and got on the Dragonite with Kona. The giant Gyarados kept looking at the direction where Zahu left until Zahu's figure disappeared from sight and tears in his eyes flowed down. "This one will come back in the future, don't worry." Chapter 120, Napier Gym. After parting with the Gyarados that he raised, Zahu inevitably felt a little depressed. However, he was an adult after all, so Zahu quickly recovered his normal mood. It was just a separation in life, not a farewell in death. There would always be a chance to meet again in the future. A group of people soon arrived at the Napier gym. The gym leader, Dan, was a very charming young man. As soon as he arrived, he showed his gentlemanly manners to Kona and Misty. Kona was not that good, but Misty had a great liking for Dan. The youngest sister had been ignored for a long time, and few people had praised her throughout the year. Zahu couldn't help but laugh when he saw this. Speaking of which, the Orange Islands really brought good luck to Misty. There were a total of 4 gym leaders here, 2 men and 2 women. The first male gym leader, Dan, was more caring towards Misty, and the second one, Yi, was even more so. He confessed his love directly and wanted Misty to stay. Walking into the gym, the first thing that caught everyone's eyes was not a battle facility, but a mountain. Everyone was surprised. Ziodan seemed to know that everyone would be surprised and explained, "Okay, to challengers, from here on, the content of the challenge begins. The basics of the Napier Gym challenge. First you have to climb the mountain independently without relying on the power of Pokémon, and then you can compete. No climbing equipment at all, just climbing the mountain with bare hands." Ziodan, can I ask, have you ever thought about what if someone falls to death? Zahu asked. Normally, those who can't climb won't climb, and those who can climb are sure. And at the critical moment of life and death, they should have Pokémon. Ziodan said. What if there is a fool, and the reaction is a little slow? If they fall to death directly, your gym may have to close down. Zahu said. There is a reason why no one challenges the Orange Alliance. Not only is the gold content of the trophy low, but the content of the competition is also nonsense. If Zahu remembered correctly, the last level of the Zargan gym that he didn't challenge was to surf with Pokémon. In short, it was special in many ways. You have to know that not all trainers have good physical strength, especially some female trainers. They may not be able to climb this mountain independently, but this does not affect their strong command ability. Ziodan showed a thoughtful expression, as if thinking about how to improve it, but this is the rule of the gym, which has been passed down for many years, and is not so easy to change. Ziodan will think about the future. Anyway, Zahu and Ziosi can climb, so you 3 should start climbing first. The 3 of us will take the cable car up first. Kona said. Of course, the accompanying personnel don't need to climb with them, they can take the cable car directly to the top of the mountain. Ziodan thought about it, and it made sense, and the 3 of them prepared to climb. But before climbing, Zahu threw out Railu first, touched Railu's little head and said, Railu, get ready, today our special training content is climbing, climb alone, don't fall down. Railu looked up at the towering mountain, not showing a scared expression, but eager to try, jumped onto the mountain with a light jump, ready to climb, and stretched out his hand to Zahu, as if to say hurry up. Even when participating in the gym challenge, you don't forget to take the opportunity to train Pokémon worthy of being the champion of the Quartz Conference. Zyadon said. It's just that I just captured it, and I need to train it well before I can fight. Zahu said. Brother, if this is the case, then I will let Ryalu come. Zyadon also threw out Ryalu. Zahu smiled and did not stop him. He moved his joints a little, did a warm-up, and took the initiative to jump up, and then the three of them climbed together. Zyadon was undoubtedly the fastest climber. Although Zyadon's physical fitness was not the best, he was skilled. Every time a challenger comes, he will climb the mountain with him. God knows how many times he has climbed the mountain. Practice makes perfect. The second one is Zahu, and Zyozzy is at the bottom. Of course, both Zahu and Zyozzy are in great physical condition. Zyozzy is needless to say. Although Zahu is a research scholar, he has not done any physical training in recent years, which has been personally recognized by Ziba. Climbing all the way up, the climate gradually becomes colder, and then the temperate plants gradually disappear, and finally it turns into snow. Pikachu and Ryalu are not Pokémon that can adapt to the cold, and they can't help feeling a little chill. Zyozzy immediately took off his clothes and wrapped the two little ones to keep warm. After seeing this, Zahu's Ryalu thought about it and turned to look at Zahu. He understood what he meant. They are all Pokémon, so here are my clothes. What are you looking at? Let's go. How can you be a strong fighter if you can't even stand this temperature? Zahu didn't take off his clothes. Instead, he flicked Ryalu's head and continued to walk forward. Ryalu stuck out his tongue helplessly and then ran up one by one. After a long time, Zahu and the other two finally reached the top of the mountain. Because of the altitude, the place had turned into a snowy scene. When Kona, Zyuksha, and Zyujian were standing there waiting, they had already wrapped themselves in a layer of clothes. When they saw Zahu and the other two had arrived, Zyozzy was ignored by Huali, while Zahu got the clothes that Kona had prepared early in the morning to keep warm. Zahu took them with peace of mind, and Zyozzy suddenly felt a little colder. Zyadon was used to this temperature difference early on, and took Zahu and Zyozzy to the front of the three geysers and said, okay, everyone has passed the basics, and now we will start to challenge the levels. The first level is to use Pokémon to freeze the water sprayed from this geyser into icicles. As he spoke, Zyadon also released his Nidoking. Compared to the power of the freezing beam, the Ninetales is not afraid. Zahu smiled and released the Ninetales. The Ninetales left the Pokéball and looked at the white snow around. It immediately let out a joyful cry and rolled in the snow excitedly. Finally, Zyozzy had no choice at all. The only Pokémon he had who could use ice skills was Dragonite. Not long after, three geysers simultaneously spurted out a stream of heat, and then the three Pokémon worked together to freeze the heat. The fastest one was of course Zahu's Ninetales. It took only half the time of Nidoking to freeze the warm current. The difference in strength here cannot be made up by simple proficiency. Then, Zyadon's Nidoking was second, and Zyozzy's Dragonite was too young and not powerful enough, so it only ranked third. Then, the second round of the competition is to make this ice column into a boat like this according to the standard of this paper, and also use Pokémon to assist, a total of 3 Pokémon. Zyadon took out a simple pattern and said, let the Pokémon build the boat. Zahu raised his eyebrows slightly. This design is unfair. Zyadon has done this countless times. He must be faster, because of his experience. He is likely to lose this round. He can't help but look at Zyozzy worriedly. Zyozzy has already lost a round. If he loses again, he will be eliminated. However, Zyozzy didn't realize it at all. He simply released Charizard and Bulbasaur. Then Charizard blew fire 3 times and an ice boat was ready. Zahu was confused. What? Can anyone tell me why the fire doesn't melt the entire ice column completely, but can make an ice boat in 3 times? May I ask how the dent inside is made? Zyadon was also confused for a while. Isn't this efficiency too high? But looking at Zahu who was still in a daze, he quickly commanded the Pokémon to build the boat. It's okay if Zyozzy wins. 2 wins in 3 games, but if Zahu wins, he will lose 2 games first. Seeing Zyodon's quick movements, Zhihui finally reacted and asked the 3 Pokémon, Ninetales, Golduck and Ryalu, to make a boat in a hurry. However, in front of the Pokémon that Zioden had made a boat for who knows how many times, ZHIHUI's 3 Pokémon still lost, even if they tried their best. In the end, everyone had to go to the 3rd round together. This round of competition is very simple. Everyone uses the boats just made. The one who slides down from here and reaches the end the fastest will win. You can only use 3 Pokémon. Ziodan introduced. You can only use 3. ZHIHUI showed a thoughtful expression. Sliding down is simple, but the competition is not simple. After all, this kind of boat made purely of ice has no control mechanism and relies on Pokémon throughout the process. If you want to change the direction, you have to let the Pokémon attack the ground to use the force to change the direction. And if everyone has to sit in it, the big one will definitely not work. In this case, there are only 3 Pokémon, Ninetales, Riolu and Golduck. Ziodan used the 3 Pokémon he used to make the boat, Nidoking, Scyther and Squirtle. Ziodan gave up Charizard and switched to Squirtle, holding Squirtle in one hand and Pikachu in the other, with Bulbasaur in the back. Then the signal was given, and the 3 boats set off at the same time, rushing towards the finish line quickly. Ziodan, who was an old hand in this field, let Scyther sit at the back, using 2 large sickles to control the left and right directions, choosing the best way, and soon stood out and drove in the first place. Zahu let Ninetales sit at the back and let its tail control the direction. Although he was not skilled and experienced, he was calm and could make the most correct decisions, so he ranked 2nd. As for Zylzy, the ice boat kept sliding down, the speed was getting faster and faster, and the steep slopes kept coming. As the commander, Zylzy, who should have been calm, just nervously hugged Pikachu and Squirtle, hoping that the 2 Pokémon would comfort him. He had no idea how to make a decision. He said left and right at one moment, making Bulbasaur behind him completely at a loss as to how to stretch out his Vine Whip. Finally, the speed of the ice ship was getting faster and faster. Zylzy was so scared that he didn't know what to do. He closed his eyes and shouted, "Forget it, Bulbasaur, make your own decision." Then he didn't care about it at all, without considering the collapse of Bulbasaur behind him. Zahu heard this and mourned for Bulbasaur. Damn, he finally understood why Zylzy's Pokémon were so independent and could dominate and become the leaders of the tribe after leaving Zylzy. As for Zylzy, make your own decision is the biggest reason. If the trainer is so unreliable, what should Pokémon do if they don't work hard? It's just that Zylzy is unreliable and Zahu is a little reliable, but he can't compare with Ziodan, a professional talent. They slid all the way and left the iceberg range and reached the grass stage with normal temperature, but the distance between Zahu and Ziodan was still not shortened. Seeing that they were about to reach the finish line, Zahu was secretly anxious and could only look at the Golduck behind him. Golduck nodded to show that he understood, and then his eyes glowed blue. The whole ice ship was suddenly surrounded by a strange force, and then it slid down at an extraordinary speed, rushing down with a crushing momentum, surpassing Ziodan's ship in one fell swoop. Ziodan had an unbelievable expression. How could it suddenly be so fast? Before he could react, a black shadow flew across the sky. It was Zylzy who was panicking and accidentally broke through a shortcut and then surpassed Ziodan and then plunged into the sea with the remaining momentum. Ziodan looked at the 2 brothers helplessly. How can I say it? Since he took over as the gym leader, on average, only one person who can take the badge from him can appear every year, but he never thought that today there would be 2 people who can do it. Moreover, each one is more outrageous than the other. One has superpowers, and the other relies on luck. However, no matter what methods these 2 people use, they are all within the rules. Ziodan has nothing to say, and can only hand over the 2 Bailang badges. Chapter 121 The Restless Articuno. Finally, we have finished the Zargan Gym and the Napuru Gym, 2 gyms that don't follow the normal routine. We can rest assured about the next gyms. Zahu said while sitting on the back of the dragon. Are you so desperate? As long as you are strong enough, there is no gym that you can't beat. Besides, you are not afraid that Aunt Hanako will blame you for abandoning Zylzy so simply. Kona laughed. Don't be ridiculous. You said you can definitely beat the gym. That's hard strength, but the Orange Islands, surfing, Skiing, are these what Pokémon trainers should do? Zahu complained. As for Xiaozi, he has no vision at all. He is not as good as Xiaoxia. Even if I throw him into the sea, my mother will not blame me. Don't be too confident. Every parent likes the youngest. Kona said. Then I will try to throw it one day, do an experiment. The truth can only be studied through experiments. Zahu said seriously. Kona chuckled and said nothing. It's meaningless to just talk, but in this vast sea, occasionally bickering and killing time is more interesting. The next gym is the user gym. The battle method is a 3-on-3 attribute battle. Have you prepared the battle Lanoop? Do you want to let Ryalu go there to practice? Kona said. Yes, Ryalu, Haunter, Golduck. If nothing goes wrong, there will be only these 3. As for Crystal Onyx, even I don't know what the attribute is, so I won't make it difficult for him. Zahu said. The battle method of the user gym is to use Pokémon with the same attribute as a challenger's Pokémon, and then win 2 out of 3 games. But if Crystal Onyx is used, it will really make the gym trainer's head explode. Then you plan to save the last Articuno for the challenge of the Winners' Cup. Kona said. Maybe, maybe not. To be honest, among the 6 Pokémon of the Orange League's chief trainer Yuji, only one Dragonite is really powerful, and in a one-on-one, Ninetales can basically win. Of course, if Articuno is free and wants to fight, it's also possible. It's a 1-on-6, but I don't know if it will be too annoying. Zahu said. Don't underestimate Yuji, he is also one of the candidates for the next Heavenly King. Overconfidence will hurt you. There is no shortage of geniuses in this world. There are many people who challenge the Heavenly King at the age of 10. Kona said seriously. She found that Zahu was a little too confident recently. Although confidence is good, it will be troublesome if he is conceited. I will try my best to restrain myself. Zahu promised. He knew that Kona was doing it for his own good, but as a person who has watched the animation, how should I put it? He knows the general strength of these famous people. He has also fought with the 4 Heavenly Kings, and knows his own strength, so it is really difficult to take Yuji too seriously. Seeing Zahu like this, Kona didn't say anything more. She also knew in her heart that Yuji's strength was much worse than Zahu. The 2 sailed on the sea together. I don't know how long they drifted. Zahu suddenly heard a sharp bird cry and frowned immediately. It was the sound of Articuno. He raised his head anxiously and found that in the sky, a blue light and a red light were fighting head-on. 2 completely different energies, one hot and one cold, were fiercely clashing. That's Moltres. Kona said in surprise as he looked at the red light. Yes, Moltres, and it should be the one born in the same batch as my Articuno. Zahu's face was serious. A large part of the reason why Articuno originally traveled with him was to defeat its enemy Moltres, but he didn't expect to meet it here. In the sky, Moltres and Articuno, the 2 divine birds, have already made real fire, and each has used their signature skills. Articuno's wings vibrated, and a layer of light snowflakes floated directly in the sky. The surrounding climate became colder, and the power of Articuno's ice-type tricks also increased significantly. There was an angry flame in his eyes that was completely inconsistent with its cold attribute. Last time, it was injured by this Moltres that was easily defeated by Zahu's Togekiss. Now, after a period of practice, it will definitely be able to defeat this dead Moltres. A mere attribute restraint is nothing. On the other side, Moltres was burning with blazing flames all over its body. The whole bad seemed to have turned into a fireball. The ice and snow around it were burned before they even reached its body, and then blazing flames burst out of its mouth. It didn't know why, but the power of this Articuno suddenly became stronger. But as a Moltres, it naturally felt proud when facing Articuno. The pride that did not allow failure. Moltres vibrated its wings, and an extremely hot current surged, blowing towards Articuno over a large area. The temperature around it rose rapidly, and the ice and snow melted directly. Articuno was inevitably affected, and a little tiredness appeared on its face, but a water wave immediately spurted out of its mouth. Moltres had just vibrated its wings to use hot air, causing its body to be somewhat uncoordinated, unable to fly, and accurately hit by the water wave. Its body was knocked down, revealing a painful expression, but Moltres soon flew up again, erupting with a powerful high-temperature flame, and continued to use hot air attacks on Articuno. Articuno, calm down. Don't be anxious. He is not your opponent. Use ice dance. Zahu saw that Articuno had no obvious advantage and couldn't help but command from below. After hearing this, Articuno instinctively calmed down, vibrated its wings, and a large amount of cold current ice condensed around it, and then it made a beautiful turn and flew directly towards the front of the hot wind. Moltres still used hot wind to melt Articuno's cold current ice, but by the time Moltres melted all the ice, Articuno had already flown in front of Moltres. Articuno, water wave. Zahu's voice came from below. Articuno opened his mouth and a light blue water wave hit Moltres' face directly. Moltres was knocked down again, and his eyes showed a strong dissatisfaction and anger, as if he couldn't believe that he would be knocked down by Articuno twice in a row. Articuno, continue to attack, send it to air slashes. Zahu didn't care about Moltres' surprise at all, and continued to give orders calmly. Ice Dance is a special move that Zahu has developed based on the anti-punch shield invented by Zyozzy in the Sinnoh region and is specially used for Articuno. Turn attack into defense. The previous layer of shield was not originally intended to hurt Moltres, but to get close to it, and now is just the right time. On the other side, Moltres was caught off guard by two air slashes from Articuno while rising rapidly. However, Moltres, who had been aroused by the fire of anger, was so reckless that he ignored the damage to his body. He rushed straight up, endured the damage, and actually came in front of Articuno and sent a big character explosion. Articuno was also seriously injured. Moltres' fire attack will get a certain bonus, and the big character explosion is originally a fire type special move. Articuno, stay steady, don't be anxious, use the art of flying, and show all the results of these days. Your strength is much stronger than this Moltres, and it can't be offset by attributes. Spread your wings and fly, Zahu said. Encouraged by Zahu, Articuno quickly calmed down, suppressed the flames of anger, flew freely in the sky, calmly dodged various attacks of Moltres, and flapped its wings from time to time for close combat. Moltres became more and more angry as it fought and roared angrily. A faint blue light emerged from its body, and a phantom of a divine bird condensed and then attacked Articuno. Articuno, wait for him to get close. Use the steel wings to gain leverage. Silver white light emerged from the wings of Articuno, and then it hit Moltres hard. The whole bird took advantage of the momentum to fly much higher. Although it still suffered some attacks, it was much lighter than the damage caused by the entire attack of the divine bird. There was a fierce battle in the sky, and Zahu and Kona followed on the sea on the dragon. As time went by, Articuno had the upper hand, and Moltres' situation became worse and worse. In the end, Moltres had almost no power to fight back, and defeat was almost inevitable. Moltres seemed to be deeply aware of its own crisis. Yellow light flashed in its mouth, and it directly sprayed out a strong and powerful destructive death light. Articuno, no need to hide, use mirror reflection, and get to know it thoroughly, Zahu said with a smile. Articuno chirped, and a faint glow appeared on its body. It resisted Moltres' final attack head-on, then flapped its wings and violently counterattacked, hitting Moltres with twice the power. Moltres immediately lost its ability to fight and fell straight from the sky. Zahu showed an expression of as expected. Mirror reflection will return the special damage it received twice, and Moltres will definitely not be able to withstand it. Looking at Moltres falling straight down, Zahu decisively threw a Pokémon ball, and a black light flashed, and it was captured without any sound. Chapter 122 Educating Moltres. The Pokéball just now didn't flash. Even if it was unconscious, it should have moved a little. And the light wasn't red. Kona looked at Zahu strangely and said, because this is not a normal ball. Zahu said directly. What he threw out was the dark ball that Mewtwo had improved. Back on the island, Zahu copied all the information, so of course he would make one. Of course, this kind of thing violates the humanity and universal values of the Pokémon world, and Zahu doesn't want to get into trouble with too many underground organizations, so Zahu only plans to make a few for fun and use them at certain times. For example, now, be careful. Kona didn't ask more about the dark ball, but reminded him with concern. Don't worry, I know my limits and I don't plan to do too much. In fact, he doesn't have much effect on me. For example, Moltres is basically the strongest in the wild, but Articuno can also defeat it. After losing its combat ability, I can use ordinary Pokeballs, but Dark Balls are safer and won't be easily escaped. What Articuno can't defeat is higher level beasts like Lugia. I doubt whether they can directly explode this Pokeball. Zahu said. Just keep it in mind. In the future, try not to use it in front of others, including Shiba and the others. Kona said. I know this, but I just use it in front of you. Zahu smiled. Then let's go to the small island in front first. During the Quartz conference, I thought you were just talking, but I didn't expect that you actually captured a Moltres now. If this continues, I guess you will have all 3 mythical birds. Kona said. Even if we gather the 3 mythical birds, there is nothing to be proud of. It's just that we have 3 mythical beasts, so we can be more proud when we go out. In fact, the 3 mythical birds are usually only at the level of the kings, and even worse, if they are not cultivated. For example, the Moltres just now is only at the level of the Quasi kings. If we can capture Lugia, it will be something we can be proud of for the rest of our lives. Zahu said. Don't be so ungrateful, saying that it is easy to reach the level of the kings. The 3 mythical birds are gifted. Other Pokémon, even if they are not bad in qualifications, still need trainers to train hard and invest a lot of resources. However, as long as the 3 mythical birds are adults, they are at the level of the kings. With a little training, the general kings have to pay several Pokémon to beat one. As for Lugia, don't dream. Kona said. People should have hope. If there is no dream, what is the difference between you and salted fish? In addition, they are all dreams. If you don't make them beautiful, what's the point? Zahu said seriously. Kona smiled and rolled his eyes at Zahu, but in his heart he was thinking that, since they had started traveling, the gap between Zahu and himself had been narrowing little by little. After having the giant Gyarados and Articuno, he was basically on par with himself, or even slightly better. Now he had Moltres, so shouldn't he also find a way to capture a few stronger ones? Qinglang swam very fast and soon reached the island next to him. Zahu released Moltres. Moltres, which had just been released, seemed to realize its fate of being captured and did not attack immediately, but still showed a strong sense of defense when looking at Zahu, and obviously did not like Zahu as its master very much. Don't be like this. Everyone has to abide by the rules, right? You were beaten down by Articuno, so Articuno is bigger than you. It is the boss, and I'm its trainer, the big brother, so you should listen to me. Zahu said. Moltres stretched its neck and cried in dissatisfaction. Don't attack. No matter what, you have been subdued by me. Don't worry, I will treat you well. Articuno became stronger than you because of following me. Don't you want to become stronger? Zahu said with a sly smile. Moltres showed a thoughtful expression. Although it is a divine beast, it is subdued. This is the rule of this world, and it must be obedient. Especially when Zahu is still very strong. After thinking about it, Moltres lowered its head to show that it recognizes Zahu as its master. Be good, I will help you heal your wounds first. Drink this special potion. Zahu took out a bottle of potion from his backpack. Moltres did not doubt it. It had been subdued and did not need to worry about what Zahu would do to it. It drank it directly and then felt much more relaxed. It flapped its wings and found that its injuries had recovered by more than half. It looked at Zahu in surprise. This was absolutely impossible for it before. Basically, it would take a long time to recover naturally after being injured. Don't be surprised. In addition to being a trainer, I'm also a good Pokémon breeder and Pokémon doctor. In addition, I also know many professional doctors, so I have no shortage of such things. If you want to fight in the future, just fight well, and then I will help you heal. Zahu said. Hearing that he could fight if he wanted, Moltres showed an excited expression on his face for the first time, and rubbed his head against Zahu. Zahu also smiled and touched Moltres, thinking in his heart, as expected, the easiest thing to kidnap and deceive in this world is not children, but Pokémon. Even the legendary beasts are the same. Urgent at this time, a hurried voice sounded in the sky, and Articuno suddenly fell, blocking in front of Moltres, and then moved his head towards Zahu, looking like he was vying for favor. Zahu touched Articuno's head again with a smile, and said, "What?" Are you jealous? Now that you beat Moltres, you are the big brother. Give in to your little brother. Brother? These two words popped up in Articuno's mind, and then he turned his head to look at Moltres, and nodded seriously. It seemed that it was right. Whoever had the bigger fist was the big brother. Then, Articuno excitedly said to Moltres in the Pokémon language, "You are the little brother. Call me brother. You are the little brother. Wait until I recover. You may not be able to beat me." Moltres said dissatisfiedly. "That was me letting you. Even though you have attribute restraint, you were beaten by me. Do you admit your weakness?" Articuno's body was flashing with icy air, and he was about to beat the bird if he disagreed with it. Moltres looked dissatisfied and wanted to continue the fight. Zahu slapped his head, thinking only of the coolness of collecting the 3 sacred birds, and forgot that these 3 guys were mortal enemies. Seeing the Pokémon about to fight again, Zahu quickly intervened, interrupting the fight between the 2 birds, and then said to Moltres, "Do you want Articuno to call you brother?" "Yes." Moltres nodded firmly. "Isn't this nonsense? Then you can call Articuno brother," Zahu said. Moltres glanced at Zahu with an expression that said, "Although I haven't read books, I won't be fooled by you. Now you can't beat Articuno, so you call it brother. When you beat it, you will be the boss, and it will have to call you brother. Otherwise, it is a shameless and vulgar bird. Unless you don't have the confidence to beat it, and think that day will never come," Zahu said. Moltres is a fire Pokémon, and its temper is hot. When it heard what Zahu said, it said without thinking that it would definitely win, and then it called. So Articuno suddenly laughed in fear, and the whole bird flew into the sky, forgetting everything in its joy, thinking, "I won," and became the pride of the Articuno family. I don't know when the 3 of us started fighting. From ancient times to the present, everyone's strength is about the same, and now there is a Moltres who calls me the boss. This is an honor that no Articuno has ever received before. Wow. Zahu looked at the Articuno flying away in the sky, and then looked at the Moltres in front of him who was called the boss by him with just a few words. He touched his head helplessly and thought, as expected, the 3 stupid birds are the 3 stupid birds. Even if the Zapdos is missing, and there is no chemical reaction, the stupid birds are still stupid birds. Oh, no, the second stupid bird, stupid and stupid. A drop of cold sweat slid down Zahu's forehead, and he should quickly find the Zapdos to complete the set. Although the Zapdos is a bit ugly, I don't dislike it. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 123. I'm going to seal off your gym. There's no Zapdos nearby, but it's close to the user gym. Let's go fight them first. After driving to a sea area, Kona looked around and said, "Okay, by the way, the Linoop needs to be changed. It's because they are pitiful. I just happened to capture Moltres. If Moltres didn't come to fight, it would be boring. It's a pity that I didn't meet Zapdos, otherwise I would have defeated the 3 god birds. That would be so exciting," Zahu said. 3 god birds, you can think of it. Are you trying to beat them into autism like Shinji? Kona chuckled. "It's a lucky thing to meet the 3 god birds in my lifetime." Zahu smiled proudly. Just after he finished speaking, he suddenly felt a sway and almost fell off the Dragonite. He quickly grabbed a bulge on the back of the Dragonite, only to find that the Dragonite had unknowingly entered a whirlpool. Don't panic. There are always whirlpools in the sea area around Yuzu Island. However, even with such a whirlpool, it is still far from enough to stop Lang Lang. Kona patted Lang Lang gently, and Lang Lang made a strange cry, and then easily broke free from the whirlpool. Lang Lang's strength is among the best among all of Kona's Pokémon. Although it has been used as a navigation tool recently, its strength is not weak at all. After leaving the whirlpool, Kona wanted to leave this sea area, but suddenly found another big whirlpool. A little girl was struggling there with a little sea lion, and she was in danger. Zahu, wait a minute. Kona threw the white sea lion's Pokeball, then calmly went into the water and rescued the little girl with the white sea lion. On the shore, several people appeared anxiously to rescue, especially a man holding a telescope to watch, but for some reason, he only stared at Kona. Zahu controlled Lang Lang and quickly responded to Kona and the little girl, and then sent the two to shore together. Merry as soon as she got ashore, several men who had been watching ran over excitedly. The little girl saw the leader, and also rushed over excitedly and said, "Brother." A touching reunion between brother and sister, and then the brother walked towards Zahu and Kona and thanked him. "Thank you for saving my sister." "You're welcome. I rescued people when I saw them in danger." Zahu smiled. However, the brother seemed to have not heard what Zahu said at all, but looked at Kona and said, "This beautiful lady must be Miss Kona, the Ice Queen of the 4 Heavenly Kings of Kanto. She is beautiful and powerful, and the most powerful ice and water trainer. You are so beautiful." Then, he snapped his fingers and 4 or 5 people behind him each presented a bouquet of flowers to Kona. I don't know how they made it out of nothing. Zahu's originally bright smile immediately turned black. "Do you think I'm dead?" He's stealing her right in front of her. Music. The man snapped his fingers, and the music started playing automatically. Then he knelt down on one knee towards Kona and said, "Miss Kona, please dance with me." Before the man finished speaking, Zahu's shoulder shook slightly, and then Ryalu, who had been on his shoulder, but had not scored a Pokeball, understood immediately, jumped down instantly, and punched the man in the face, knocking him to the ground. "Oh, I'm so sorry, I just captured this Pokémon, and haven't cultivated it yet. I hope it didn't cause you any harm," Zahu said with a hypocritical and caring smile. "What are you doing? It's very rude to let your Pokémon use violence in front of a beautiful lady." The man shouted in dissatisfaction, feeling that he had lost face in front of Kona. "If I remember correctly, you should be AE, the gym trainer of User Gym, right?" Kona said. "It's really an honor to let Miss Kona remember my name. I hope Miss Kona can take some time to guide our User Gym." AE said. "You are the gym trainer of User Gym." Zahu raised his eyebrows. In the animation, this guy fell in love with Zyraksha who saved his sister. Shouldn't his aesthetic taste be inclined to Lali? Why would he like a mature big sister like Kona? Could it be that he likes whoever saves his sister? Seeing the aunt's attentiveness, Zahu's face became even darker. He stood in front of Kona to declare his sovereignty, and then took out his peer certificate beautifully, and said proudly, "So you are the useless User Gym trainer. I'm the special search officer of the Alliance and the peer gym inspector. According to the report, someone said that User Gym is vulnerable, so I came here to check. If you find that it is correct, you will be directly removed from the Alliance." Peer inspector, special search officer? AE was surprised and looked at Kona in confusion. "Miss Kona, is what he said true? You haven't watched the news. He is indeed the peer inspector, and he has sealed nearly half of the gyms in Kanto by himself." Kona said seriously. She didn't lie, she said the truth. As one of the 4 kings of the Alliance, she felt that she had set a good example of honesty. As for how AE understood it after hearing it, it was a matter of personal understanding, and it couldn't be blamed on her. Nearly half of the gyms in Kanto have been closed down. AE took a breath and looked at Zahu with more and more cautious and fearful eyes. This man was too scary. However, due to his confidence in his own strength, AE was not panicked and said to Zahu, "Since you are the inspector, then we welcome you, and I believe that the inspector will be satisfied. And, Miss Kona, why don't we dance for a while? I now doubt that your User Gym has no strength at all. You dance all day long, doing nothing, and neglecting your work. If you don't show your strength, I will expel your gym." Zahu interrupted rudely. "You are still dancing. Are you addicted to dancing? Since it is the inspector's intention, I will take you to visit my gym now." AE more or less guessed what Zahu meant, but he could only respond helplessly, and took Zahu to visit his gym. Kona walked at the end, and couldn't help but smile. Seeing someone become jealous for her, she felt so happy. Although AE said that he would keep dancing, the gym was actually pretty good. All his Pokémon were dancing in a dance studio, dancing to the rhythm, which was actually the same as Zahu using the waves to cultivate Ryalu's sense of rhythm. Dancing can make the body movements relatively agile, which is very useful in battle. Then Zahu observed it in a similar way. In fact, no matter how bad this gym was, he had no right to close it. There were only 4 gyms in the Orange Alliance, and if he closed another one, it would not work. It was just a lie, so he still had to pretend. Finally, after visiting the entire gym, Zahu asked for a duel. According to the rules of the user gym, the attributes were 3 to 3. They were fighting, fire, and flying. Chapter 124, Crushing Battle. 3 on 3, first match, attribute, fighting. Zahu took the initiative, and threw out Ryalu first. Okay, Abhiro, go ahead, show the power of our dance. A said, turning around beautifully, I want to use the victory of this match, to dedicate to the beautiful Miss Kona. Zahu clenched his fist. If he had known earlier, he should have called Gyarados first, not giving this guy any hope, and directly beat him to death. Abhiro, use Sonic Fist. A was the first to issue the order. If it was to deal with the challenger would usually attack first, but because Zahu was using the identity of an inspector, A took the initiative to attack without hesitation. A faint shadow appeared on Abhiro's fist and hit Ryalu at lightning speed. Ryalu, Shadow Clone. Zahu said calmly. Sonic Fist and Lightning Flash are both special moves for attacking first, and even the power is the same. He was too lazy to compete with Abhiro for who would attack first. Ryalu received the order and calmly transformed into 7 or 8 clones. Abilang only hit one with one punch, and then began to look around in confusion. Which one is it? Abilang, don't panic, use continuous punches. A said. Continuous punches can attack 2 to 5 times in a row. There are only 7 or 8 clones in total. The probability is 5/8, which is still very promising. However, when Abilang hit all the clones, he still didn't hit Ryalu. A immediately felt something was wrong. Then a black shadow suddenly jumped out of the sky and punched Abilang hard, sending him flying. Zahu showed a proud expression. He learned this trick from the old man Yukang in the Battle Palace. Who said that there must be a real shadow clone? Can't they all be fake? Ryalu, use the power. Zahu said. Ryalu immediately ran quickly and slapped him, and a strong shock wave blasted away. Abilang, dance to dodge. A ordered. Abilang barely woke up and remembered the dance moves he practiced. Then he shook a few times and actually dodged it. Next, give it a beautiful kick from the bottom. A said. Abilang followed the dance moves and kicked out a special move. Ryalu, feel the rhythm and jump onto his legs. Zahu said. Ryalu's eyes lit up, feeling the wave guides around him, and stayed still. When Abilang's flying kick was about to kill, he suddenly jumped, as quiet as a virgin, as fast as a rabbit, stepped on Abilang's leg, and then kicked back to Abilang from the bottom. Abilang was knocked down immediately. Finally, use the wave missile. Zahu said. Ryalu immediately rolled out a ball with both hands, and then hit Abilang's head hard, and Abilang lost his ability to fight. Abilang lost his ability to fight, and Inspector Zahu won. The referee announced the decision helplessly. Zahu put his hands in his pockets, and kicked from the bottom. What the hell, you are the boxing Abi, not the kicking demon Shorang. The power of the kick is very limited. You are really strong, worthy of being an inspector, but the next thing is not so simple. 3 to 3 attributes. I will use the fire type Ninetales. A said. Fire type. Kona on the side looked at A with pity. Didn't he know why he chose fire and flying? Don't be beaten into autism. I'm waiting for you. Moltres, show up and make your debut. Zahu threw the Pokeball and said. Moltres left the Pokeball, first singing loudly, and then looked at Ninetales with disdain, with an expression that said, you weak chicken want to fight me? Under the momentum of Moltres, the expression on Ninetales' face also showed panic, and subconsciously took a step back. As its trainer, A was shocked and speechless. How could Moltres be captured? Even the legendary beast has it, how can it be defeated? Ninetales, don't be afraid. Moltres is also a fire Pokémon. Your characteristic is to attract fire. You can absorb the power of fire to strengthen yourself. We may not lose. A encouraged Ninetales, and then said to Ninetales, Ninetales, use jet fire. Hearing the master's order, Ninetales seemed to have received support, and spurted out a strong column of flames. Moltres did not dodge, and was directly attacked by the flames. There was even an expression of comfort and enjoyment on its face. Moltres' characteristic is not to attract fire, but it is a divine beast with special abilities. Every time it is injured, it will jump into the magma of the crater by itself and burn its whole body to heal itself. Ninetale's temperature is not as high as the temperature of the magma that Moltres often goes to, so Ninetale's flame is similar to taking a bath for Moltres. Your courage is worthy of recognition, but your idea is naive. You are not qualified to be a gym trainer. Next, let me tell you that in the face of absolute power, theory can be overturned. Zahu said with a slightly serious expression. Molten, let Ninetale know what real flame is. Flame vortex. Moltres cried out, its wings vibrated, and a huge flame vortex swept Ninetale. Ninetale, don't panic, hold on. A shouted. Feeling the urgent call of its master, Ninetale burst out its potential and wanted to resist the flames. However, this time the flame it absorbed was not absorbed like the previous flames. Instead, it would impact in the body in waves and then directly lose the ability to fight, fall down completely, and become a circle eye. How is it possible? A looked at the scene in front of him in disbelief. How could the fire-inducing Ninetale be hurt by the power of fire? Theory is theory, actual combat is actual combat, don't confuse the two. Zahu said. The fire-inducing characteristics, when attacked by fire attribute skills, not only will not be hurt, but the power of the skills will be increased. This is a research report, but it is only in a general sense. Just like defending against all special attacks, but still being penetrated by Regirock. Especially the fire attracting property, which Zahu has studied the principle of, is to absorb the attack power of fire Pokémon to temporarily increase its own firepower. In this way, it can avoid being hurt, but if the power is too strong, it will directly break this balance and severely injure the Ninetale first. So there is this scene now. Okay, I lost. A lowered his head in despair. The user gym was about to be expelled, and the little lolly Mary on the side was also filled with tears. 3 on 3, my general rule is that you can beat one of me. There is another flying battle next. If you can win, I will consider you the winner. Zahu suddenly laughed and relaxed the conditions. A's eyes lit up. Can we fight again? Next is the flying attribute. Pidgeot, come on. A shouted loudly. Pidgeot left the Pokeball and was about to spread his wings and fly in the sky, but when he saw Moltres on the side, he immediately became timid and looked terrified, not daring to show off. Don't worry, it's not your opponent. Your opponent is it, Articuno. Zahu threw Articuno's treasure ball and said. Pidgeot was relieved when he heard that the opponent was Moltres, but when he saw Articuno coming out, his body immediately went cold, and then he went from relaxed to scared. Moltres, at least there is no attribute restraint, but Articuno has attribute restraint. Aya's happy expression froze on his face. What do you mean? Are you going to fight me or not? Chapter 125 Preparing to find Zapdos. A didn't give up in the end and commanded Pidgeot to fight with all his might. However, with the obvious difference in strength and attribute restraint, Pidgeot was killed instantly without any suspense. The speed of defeat was even faster than the defeat of Ninetales. After 3 defeats and 3 battles, A's high spirits disappeared without a trace. Finally, he lowered his head helplessly and said through gritted teeth, I lost, and I will be expelled from the user gym from now on. Brother. Little Lolly Mary's eyes also turned red, and she couldn't help but let down her tears. Zahu took back Articuno and Moltres, walked up to AE, and said in a serious face, what you say does not count. Only what I say is authoritative. I now declare in my capacity as the Special Search Inspector of the Alliance via that user gym, it is qualified to exist. The previous slanders were false. So it will continue to exist and keep up the good work. Continue to exist? A was stunned, then showed a surprised expression and said, can it really continue to exist? Yes, Articuno and Moltres are both Pokémon that are above the average level. Your strength is enough to be a gym leader. Zahu nodded. Also, give me a gym badge. I've been bored recently and playing in the Orange League, and I need your gym badge. Here is the badge. If you take it, it's proof that you have defeated me. A was extremely excited when he heard Zahu say that he would not expel his gym. He couldn't wait to take out the gym badge from the side and give it to Zahu. He was full of gratitude and regarded Zahu as his benefactor. Brother's gym will not be expelled, and brother is still a gym trainer? Thank you, Brother Zahu. Brother Zahu, you are such a good person. When little Lali Mary heard that the gym could still exist, she ran over excitedly and kissed Zahu on the face to show her closeness. The others also looked grateful. Only Kona stood there alone, with an awkward expression. She wanted to laugh, but couldn't. What should she do? This feeling was so uncomfortable. In order not to laugh, Kona forced her face to be tight. She felt that what happened today would make her laugh for a year. When Zahu told her a story skit before, he said that someone was fooled and thanked the person who fooled him. She always thought this was nonsense and only existed in skits. She never thought that this kind of thing would actually happen in reality, where someone was sold and helped count money. Thinking about things, Kona looked at Zahu, and there was suddenly a sense of vigilance in his eyes. Did he trick me into helping him count money before? But after thinking about it again, Kona realized that, even if he was really sold out by Zahu, he would probably help him count the money, so his guard faded again. Just let it go, he wouldn't really sell him out anyway. So, in this situation, with everyone in the user gym thanking them profusely, Zahu and Kona took the badges, got on the dragon again, and left in the direction of the next gym. Then, after they were far away from the user gym, the two looked at each other and burst into laughter at the same time. Kona even laughed so hard that her stomach hurt. After a long while, she straightened up and scolded Zahu, saying, "You deceived the Pomelo gym so badly this time. If they knew that the Alliance inspection and report were all fictitious, they would probably send the entire gym to beat you. Even if the entire gym joined together, they can't beat me alone," Zahu said proudly. "Besides, even if they want to beat me, I left after beating the Orange Alliance. If they want to beat me, they can't find me. You're just happy. You scared people to death. If you bluff them in the end, and don't say or remove them, you will definitely beat you to death," Kona said. "But, Sister Kona, didn't you expose it? You helped me to play with them. You are also an accomplice," Zahu said. "Now that you said that, can I still destroy your stage in front of outsiders?" Kona rolled her eyes at Zahu and said unhappily, "So, it's rare to be cheated by the two of us. The first one in the Orange Alliance, and it's very likely to be the only one in the past few decades. What a great honor," Zahu said exaggeratedly. "Don't give me that. You just want to mess with them." Kona ruthlessly exposed Zahu's lies. "That's what they deserve. They stole my girlfriend in front of me and treated me as if I were dead," Zahu said. "Steal your girlfriend? When did I become your girlfriend?" Kona raised her eyebrows, looking angry, and her jade hands were ready to move, with the urge to pinch Zahu's ears again. However, Zahu didn't back off this time. Since the last spring incident, Zahu's courage has become more and more fat. He is no longer afraid. He smiled and grabbed Kona's hand, and the whole person lay on Kona's legs and said, "It's a matter of time." Looking at Zahu, who was lazy on his legs, Kona smiled. Indeed, it was a matter of time. This bastard finally took the initiative. Zahu lay on Kona's lap, smelling the light fragrance, and his heart was also comfortable. The sun, the white waves, the beauties, he suddenly had a sense of satisfaction of being a winner in life. At this moment, Zahu finally understood why Xiaomeo lost in the 4th round when he played in the quartz competition for the first time in the animation. Damn. Driving a luxury car with 6 beauties by his side and shouting 666 every day. In this situation, it's good enough. If he is not useless, how can he have the hard willpower to travel and exercise? You know, Zahu has been a human being for 2 lifetimes. At this moment, he has the urge to stop traveling and just end it like this. After returning home, he will have a wife and children who are warm on the bed. He can sit at home and become a superstar, earn tens of millions a year, and have a high social status. What are your plans next? Go to the next gym? Or find Zapdos first? Kona asked softly. You can fight at the gym anytime, as long as you don't delay the Johto League challenge. As for Zapdos, we still have to catch it seriously. Let's start with Zapdos. Zahu's eyes lit up. Although he was impulsive, he still had to fight in the league. He was only 15 years old. It would be too hopeless to go home and retire. He would first hang out outside. If you want to catch Zapdos, there seems to be traces of Zapdos near Asia Island, so let's go there next. It just so happens that they are preparing for the Sea God Festival recently. We can see different situations when we go there. Kona said, Asia Island, Sea God Festival? Zahu's eyes changed slightly. This seems to be the plot of the Lugia movie. If so, the Zapdos over there is the strongest thunder god among the Zapdos, and it is one of the ones that cannot be caught. Wait a minute, let's go to a small island in front. I'll contact Miss Joy and take back the giant Gyarados first. Next, Asia Island may have a big event. Zahu said. What's the big deal? We don't have enough Linoop, so we have to pull back the giant Gyarados? Kona asked puzzled. It's a world-class event. 3 stupid birds are fighting randomly and creating the legendary end of the world. Zahu said helplessly. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.